With the official conclusion of the 2019-2020 AHL season, it is officially confirmed that the Tucson Roadrunners are your Pacific Division champions. This is the second time Tucson has won the Pacific Division, the first time being in 2017-2018, and they finished with a record of 36-19-1-2 for 75 points under Coach Jay Verity. And let's just take a minute to just talk about this team, talk about some of the players, and give out my personal season awards and why I think the way I think. So let's get into it. So this is the second year in a row that I've actually got to pay attention to Tucson, and this is the second year in a row that I've seen them have a really good start that kind of gets me excited about where the season's going to go, and they actually maintained it pretty well. They had a couple of colder streaks, you have some struggles, it's going to happen throughout any team season, but the fact that Tucson still kept it together, I can't help but just, throw some praise their way. So, in terms of the top 10 scorers in the team, let's start from number 10 and work our way up. Number 10, Tyler Steenbergen, 57 games played, 8 goals, 18 assists, 26 points. I really like this kid's game. He's fit in rather well in Tucson, and he had a pretty good season. There you go. Just shy of 10 goals, but he'll definitely go up if he keeps working hard. Number 9, Jordan Gross, 56 games played, 10 goals, 17 assists, 27 points. He is a really good two-way defenseman. I like him a little more on the offensive side, but he also is pretty decent defensively from what I've seen. And the fact that he is our best right-shot defenseman that is not a first-year draft pick, before I get anyone complaining about Victor Soderstrom, but Jordan Gross is definitely the best right-shot defenseman we have in the system that's been in the system for at least a season and a half or so. And I really want to see if he can maybe push for one of those roster spots moving forward. He got a couple of contracts that are going to be coming to an end within the next couple of seasons. He's still going to be right around that mid-20s, so I think maybe he can find his way into the NHL roster moving forward if he keeps working hard. The only thing is we have to just kind of wait and see. So, number 8, the captain himself, Michael Chaput, 47 games played, 16 goals, 13 assists, 29 points. Not a whole lot I can say about him, just Chaput is a good leader, he's a good player, he's helped out the team, and moving on. Number 7, Lane Peterson, 37 games played, 16 goals, 18 assists, 34 points, just shy of a point per game. This kid came out of the gates playing on just a different level. He was just going for the stars, and then, of course, injuries kind of ended that season prematurely. It's unfortunate, but the fact that he's still in that top 10 for scoring, just shy of a point per game, Lane Peterson has a bright future ahead of him. I can see him making the NHL roster in the next couple of years if he keeps on the current trajectory. Next at number 6, Hudson Fasching, 57 games played, 19 goals, 16 assists, 35 points. Another solid season out of him. I've grown to like him on this squad. He fits his role rather well. I don't personally see him breaking out of the AHL and breaking onto the NHL roster, but at the same time, anything could happen. I just don't see it, at least for the core the Coyotes are bringing up. But number 5, my favorite player on the team, Kyle Capobianco, 42 games played, 10 goals, 27 assists, 37 points. Another solid season out of the guy. Obviously, you had a couple minor stints up with the Arizona Coyotes, so there's that. So, obviously didn't get to play as many games as you would have liked him to, but he still had a solid season. Number 4, another newbie, Bo Bennett, 55 games played, 12 goals, 28 assists, 40 points. Not a whole lot I can say about the guy. Just a really good game, a pretty good fit here in Tucson. He fills his role, he steps up, he's a good guy, good player, and I can't praise him enough for that. Number 3, my second favorite player on the team. He was once a meme, but he is the prodigal son who has returned. Andy Mealy, 58 games played, 15 goals, 33 assists for 48 points. Just filling a role that this Tucson team needed. He brings a lot of energy to this game. He scores, he can pass. He's a really good passer, setting up a lot of plays. I love Andy's game. I love the fact that he's back with the Arizona Coyotes organization and that he helps lead Tucson to a division championship. Look, this is a big deal. Arizona teams, we were just looking for some positive sports news. We got it. We definitely got it. Number 2, a really hard-working player that I would love to see get a shot at the NHL in the next year. Michael Bunting, 58 games played, 12 goals, 37 assists for 49 points. I've been watching him for a little over a year now. I got to see him at both the AHL and NHL level last year, and he actually played surprisingly well when he filled in those couple of games at the NHL level. He's been a really good AHL player for the last couple of seasons. I really want to see him get his opportunity because I think you can easily put him in somewhere. Let's say with a guy like Carl Soderberg's contract coming to an end, you have an opening on that wing side that you can probably put Bunting in and it will probably be fine, or you can move someone else up and have Bunting go down to, let's say, a third line. maybe even a fourth line if you really want to go that route. But I just think that Michael Bunting is too good of a talent to not at least give a shot at the NHL. I don't think he's ever going to be a star, but I definitely think he will be a top 9 anchor if he makes his way into the NHL, because at the AHL level, he's been damn consistent. I like him. And the number 1 scoring player on the team, Braden Burke. Yes, Berkey boy himself. 51 games played, 21 goals, 31 assists for 52 points, being the only 20-goal scorer on the team. Hudson Fasching was almost there, but only 20-goal scorer on the team. He scored more than a point per game. He is without a doubt the most improved player, and I'll get to that a little more in my awards. Just the fact that this kid stepped up. There is so much to like about his game, his speed, his shot, his passing ability. From what I've seen, every single time I watch him, he is not a selfish player, and he's definitely fit perfectly on this team. And I think if he has one more good season, one more good AHL level season, he will make it the NHL roster. All he has to do is just do one more season like this, showing these kind of numbers, and yeah, no, he will definitely make the NHL roster. Now, with that being said, the forwards out of the way, or at least the skaters, let's get into the goaltenders. Adin Hill, 15-5-0 record, 240 goals against, 918 save percentage. A solid season out of him, though I'm not entirely sure what they're doing with him. It seemed like they wanted him to be the backup moving forward on the main roster, but then Antti Ranta, ended up taking that spot with Darcy Kemper being the full-time starter until Darcy got hurt, but then Adin Hill was rarely playing when they called him up. It's really weird what they're doing with him, but the fact that he still had another good AHL season, I can see him maybe pushing for a backup role in the next year or so on some other team. I just don't see it personally happening in Arizona. Then we have the kid, Ivan the Terrible. Ivan Prosvetov, 14-10-1, 288 goals against, 909 save percentage. There was a stretch of games where this kid looked absolutely just unbeatable. I got to see him during training camp. I'm looking at this kid like he's the future at that goaltending position for the Arizona Coyotes. I can legitimately see him within the next 4 years or so. It's going to take a little bit more development, obviously. His numbers in the AHL weren't great as a whole. However, they were still good. And the fact that I think in the next 4 years he can be that Coyotes starter, if he just keeps working at it and just keeps developing the way you need him to develop, I think this is the brightest spot of our future coming up, aside from Kyle Capobianco and maybe someone like Braden Burke or Michael Bunting or Lane Peterson. It's kind of that forward core. Essentially, you have 5 players that I just named off right now that I very realistically think can make the roster in the next few years. Obviously, with Prosvetov being more of the long game, but guys like, let's say Gross, Capobianco, Burke, Bunting, Lane Peterson, guys like that, I think could come up in the next year or two, just with how good they are and how much they're developing that talent. You can use a lot of these guys. You just kind of got to move some contracts around and whatnot, but you definitely have a lot of options moving forward. And the fact that over the last 2 seasons, I've seen a lot of positivity out of this AHL system. I've seen a lot of progression out of these players. And we also got guys like Connor Garland, who is now our first 20-goal scorer in 2 seasons for the Arizona Coyotes. We got a lot to look forward to. We have a lot of, good talent coming out of Tucson, including one that is now our first-line winger. So make of that what you will. Really good season out of Tucson, but let's get to my personal awards. So, my MVP of the team has to go to Lane Peterson. Just how fantastic he played, how he stepped up. In my opinion, if I had to pick one player, barring the injury, if I had to pick one player to say is going to make the NHL roster in the next year, it's Lane Peterson. He's stepped up, he's shown he's playing at just a ridiculous level, and I absolutely love the kid's game, and I think it'll translate. Watching him play, his play will just translate to the next level. Then we have my most improved player. I was a fan of his last year. This year, I'm totally on board. Berkey boy himself, Braden Burke, who last season, 33 points in 67 games. Solid season. I remember talking about it on my old channel when I did a season review. It was a solid season out of him and a very good start. But then you have this season where he had 52 points in 51 games, over a point per game. You gotta love it. You gotta love this kid's game, how he's developing, how he's pushing himself forward in the way that he just might be able to crack an NHL roster in the next couple of years. So pay attention to that. Now we have the comeback player, and Andy Mealy. Yes, he had a good season in the KHL last year, but let's put it into context as North American ice, North American hockey. He had 3 full seasons of not playing in it. And the fact that his career and on the North American side looked done, and the fact that he had a fantastic season last year in the KHL, had the opportunity to come back to the team that drafted him, and the fact that he delivered. He was a very good part of this team. He helped propel them forward. He helped them secure that division championship. It's just the fact that, he's the comeback player. Because, guy in his 30s, you don't really expect this to come out of him. Well, guess what? It came out of him. Good job on him. Then I have my Rookie of the Year, Ivan Prosvetov. Ivan the Terrible is just playing on a level that I find ridiculous. Yes, again, it wasn't exactly maintained. There was some stretches of some lower mediocrity. There's a lot of different factors you can talk about that. Obviously, he's still a rookie. He's still a young kid. I believe he's only 20 years old right now. So he still needs to develop more and, get more time in that starting role. You still have, some injuries that might have affected some defense. You still have some, smaller stretches of just lower to mediocre play out of the entire team or out of him himself. So there's a lot of factors that are like, yeah, he didn't have a perfect season, but he had a damn good season, and he had that stretch where I thought he was going to be completely unstoppable. So Ivan the Terrible is my Rookie of the Year. And that is my kind of brief look back at the Tucson Roadrunners for the 2019-2020 season. It was a damn good effort. I've had a lot of fun getting to kind of follow them as much as I could. Obviously, for the most part, it's listening to their games on the radio or following the statistics as closely as I can because I don't have the ability to watch them. But it's one of those things that whenever I do, and the games that I got to go see live, even though they ended up losing that game, showed me a lot out of what these guys can bring and what these guys do, and I'm just having a lot of fun with this team, and hopefully they can win a Calder. Let's put it out there. They have the roster to do it if they kind of keep it together, but let's just see if they can win a Calder. Let's go for next season, boys, and there's that. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and since I don't have the time to actually watch and listen to every single Roadrunners game and give them the proper coverage like I used to be able to and I do for the Coyotes currently, I decided I wanted to do something for them. So at the end of every month, I'm going to be reviewing, or at the very least reporting, each and every game throughout the month. So without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and jump right into February 2021 for the Tucson Roadrunners. It actually started on February 7th. It actually took place in Tucson, but because San Jose wouldn't allow them to play games there, they were treated as home games for the San Jose Barracuda. Anyway, let's go and get right to the goal scoring summary. At 18:11 of the second, Tyler Steenbergen gets his first from Josh Wilkins and Ryan McGregor. Then in the third period at 6:24, John Leonard unassisted gets his first. We're going to overtime. But then in the only shot for Tucson in the overtime period, at 1:17, Cam Dineen gets his first, winning it for the Tucson Roadrunners. They go up 1-0-0-0 on the season. I don't like how they split overtime and shootout losses, but I think it's for a percentage thing or a tiebreaker, but whatever. They get the win 2-1 in overtime. And looking at the shots on goal, San Jose actually led in shots in 3 out of the 4 periods. So 13-8 in the first, it was 11-all in the second, 11-5 in the third, and 2-1 in the overtime, but it only took Tucson 1 shot in order to score. Tucson goes over 3 on the power play, and San Jose goes 0 for 1. So at the very least, you had a pretty solid effort. But then my favorite goaltender, my favorite prospect, I should say, Ivan Prosvetov, 36 saves, 1 goal against in 61 minutes and 17 seconds of play. The dude is an absolute animal. But anyway, Tucson takes the first game. Let's go ahead and jump right into the next one. So the very next day, February 8th, 2021, they're back at it, and this one was a lot more scoring than just 2 goals. At 14-14 of the first, San Jose gets the first goal. I think it's Blakefield from Leonard and Menga. Then at 15-19, Yannick gets his first from Carconi and Braden Burke. And then at 16:44, the first, Lane Peterson gets his first from Kevin Roy and Michael Bunting. I'm never sure if it's Roy or Wah, but Adrian Denny always says Roy, so I'm going to assume. Also, I like the fact that Kevin Roy is on the team because that's a guy I always have on the Tucson Roadrunners in the NHL games. Kind of the same thing with David Olstrom. I had him on the Roadrunners team, then I actually ended up adding in real life. I kind of like when that happens. But then before the end of the first, at 16:57, San Jose scores, and we're all tied up 2-2 going into the second. Then the second was all Roadrunners, baby. At 1:43, Carconi is first from Yannick, and then at 17:33, Michael Bunting his first from Lane Peterson and Braden Burke on the power play. Going into the third at 4:24, San Jose scores on the power play, but that wasn't going to be the last goal of the game because at 17:16, Kevin Roy his first from Bunting and Peterson. That line is fantastic, by the way. I absolutely love those 3 guys. Going into what they deemed as the 3 stars of the game, Yannick with a goal and 1 assist as the first star, Prosvetov 33 saves. That's back-to-back 30 save performances with 3 goals against and a total of 55 minutes on ice. And then the third star was Michael Carcone with a goal and assist. But either way, he still had a fantastic game out of the Roadrunners there, and they win by a final score of 5-3, going up on the season 2-0-0-0. And one thing I love about Tucson, ever since I've actually started watching them, which is their 3rd season, and it was my first season covering as the AZ Sports guy in 18-19, they always get off to hot starts because they're a very good team, but then usually the Coyotes get some injuries and they take some of the better players, and it's a little bit sad. But anyway, Tucson wins 5-3, I should say. Let's go ahead and jump into the next game. Moving on to February 12th, 2021 in Ontario to take on the Reign. No, it's not Ontario, Canada. They went to California. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right into the goal scoring summary. In the first period at 5:48, Michael Bunting is second from Roy and Unique on the power play. But before the end of the period at 11:41, they would tie it up off Byron. So there you go, going into the second period. 2:18, Cam Dineen is second from Kevin Roy, and Tucson's right back up on top. 7:44 on the power play, Michael Bunting is third from Peterson and Unique, and at 8:51 you had Nate Sassis get his first shorthanded, but then before the end of the period Ontario would score 2 more, and now Tucson's up 4-3 going into the third period. And then at 10:36 it is tied from Thomas, from Byfield, and Capri on the power play. But before the midway, or around the midway point at 11:15, Lane Peterson is second from Roy and Bunting. Tucson takes us by a final score of 5-4, keeping it in regulation, by the way. And just looking at some of the performances here, first and foremost, Michael Bunting, 2 goals and an assist. Kevin Roy had 3 big helpers himself. And then looking at Ivan Prosvetov, 28 saves on 32 shots against, so not his best game, but that's still 3 consecutive wins. And definitely, you get one bad game if you're a goaltender, especially at the AHL level. So we'll give him a pass on this one. And go ahead and looking at shots. So the final shots, Ontario outshot Tucson 32-24, but it only takes that one shot. Power plays, Tucson 2 for 3, Ontario 1 for 4, and let's go ahead and move on to the next game with Tucson being 3-0-0-0. So on February 14th, 2021, we're still in Ontario. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. At 5:10 of the first period, Michael Carcone is second from Braden Burke. And then in the second at 15:43, Carcone is second of the night, third of the season from Unique and Burke. But then in the third period at 58 seconds and 3:34 respectively, Ontario would respond. We're tied at 2. Then at 5:03, Kevin Roy gets his second from Cameron Crotty and Cam Dineen. Side note, I believe that's Crotty's first AHL point. And then at 6:12, Ontario ties it up. Let's go ahead and jump right into overtime. And 32 seconds in, Michael Bunting, his fourth from Lane Peterson and Victor Soderstrom, which also, side note, is his first AHL point. So absolutely great there. Michael Bunting, I put him back on the NHL roster. I'm just going to say that and leave it there. Anyway, go ahead and looking at the goaltending. Ivan Prosvetov, 30 saves, 33 shots faced, so obviously 3 goals against. That's 3 out of the first 4 games he's played. He's had to face, and actually all 4 he still had to face more than 30 shots, but 3 out of the 4 he stopped 30 or more. So just put it out there. Ivan the Terrible is fantastic. Tucson takes this one 4-3 in overtime, bumping their record to 4-0-0-0. So absolutely hot start. Absolutely love seeing that. Then we head to February 24th. Yeah, because of some delays, you had to wait an entire week for some Tucson Roadrunners hockey. Yeah, this was against the Colorado Eagles. Go ahead and jump into the second period at 9:05. Liam O'Brien scores his first from Salamaki and Schneed. And just like that, Colorado's up 1-0. 13-12, Victor Soderstrom responds in the power play. His first from Peterson and Bunting. But then at 15-21, Colorado scores again, and then you're going 2-1 going into the third. And then at 4:51, Colorado once more, and Tucson takes their first loss of the season. Side note, this was the first game Kyle Capabianco got to play all year in Tucson, and it definitely was not going to be his best. Spoiler alert. Anyway, Prosvetov, 29 saves on 32 shots against. That means all 5 games he had to face more than 30 shots. Hey, maybe just tighten up a little bit defensively. Looking at the shots on goal, Colorado outshot Tucson 32-28. Tucson goes 1 for 2 on the power play. Colorado 0 for 4. So at the very least, there's a little bit of carryover on the good shorthanded play by the Tucson Roadrunners and the Arizona Coyotes. But Tucson falls to 4-1-0-0. Let's go ahead and jump right into the next one on February 26th, 2021. Once again, against, again, Colorado. In the first, 320, Kevin Roy is third from Peterson and Capobianco. You're going to hear that name a lot, by the way. But then at 17:23 the first, and in the second, 6:54 and 7:11, Colorado would score 3 unanswered goals by Menga, he got 2 of them, and O'Brien. Then we go ahead and get into the third period. 18 minutes of the third, Jordan Schmaltz, brother of Nick, gets his first from Capobianco and Hebig. And then at 19:45, Capobianco scores his first of the season from Elaine Peterson. And just like that, Cap is part of all 3 goals there. And then you go into overtime at 4:45, Kevin Roy his fourth from Cap and Bunting, and right there, Tucson wins by a final score of 4-3 in overtime, bumping their record up to 5-1-0-0. And let's just take a look real quick. I know they didn't really give him much credit in the 3 stars, but Kyle Capobianco, after struggling the 2 games in Arizona, after getting bumped up and down between the taxi squad and the AHL because of cap space reasons, finally getting to play, having a very poor first game, if I had to say so myself, gets a goal and 3 assists, and it's part of all 4 of Tucson's goals for the win. Just exciting stuff there. Anyway, Prosvetov, 35 saves against 38 shots, so once again giving up 3 goals. But every single game he's played, that is 5 consecutive games, he's had to face 30 or more shots. So 6 consecutive, 30 or more shots. So I'm just going to say it right now, he's still an absolute beast. But my first star is going to Capobianco. Obviously, it goes to Kevin Roy, who had 2 goals there. Tucson's record goes up to 5-1-0-0. And in the last game of the month, it was literally last night on the 27th, as I'm recording this, and they were trying to go 6-1-0-0. I think it's for the second year in a row, second or third year. Tucson, again, known for hot starts. But it wasn't meant to be, because at 5:54 the first, Colorado scores. That is the last goal of the entire game. Colorado outshoots Tucson 37-20. Tucson's 0-2 on the power play. Colorado's 0-5. You can't be taking as many bad penalties. And one thing I absolutely hate to see, Capobianco was responsible for 3 of those, including an unsportsmanlike conduct at 16-17 of the second. And that's not what I like to see, especially after struggling at the NHL this year. Having a very poor first game, a great second game, and now back to having a poor game after that. This one, actually, Lecouve gets his first start of the year, and 36 saves and 37 shots against. He had a fantastic game, but it wasn't meant to be. Tucson falls in regulation 1-0 and drops to 5-2-0-0, which is still second in the Pacific Division behind only Henderson. And the only reason San Diego is not above them is because they've played significantly more games, but their winning percentage is lower. That is the only reason. Anyway, go ahead and jump right into the stats. First and foremost, like I said, Michael Bunting, bring this guy to the NHL. Lane Peterson, he has to be waiting in the wings. Lane Peterson's going to be good. I'm saying it. I'm sticking to it. Michael Bunting, in 7 games played, he is the team's leading scorer, although technically he's tied with Peterson because he has more goals. He'll take over score. In 7 games, 4 goals. 5 assists and 9 points. Bunting is just playing fantastic this year. Lane Peterson, 7 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. Kevin Roy, 7 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Right there, your top line is producing very consistently. Then you go number 4 overall, Jan Yannick, who is a rookie this year. 7 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. Carcone, 7 games, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points. Capobianco in 3 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. He's more than a point per game. Braden Burke in 6 games has 4 assists. He's still playing pretty well. And just a couple of notables as we're going down the line. Victor Soderstrom in 6 games played has 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. He's a -1. So at the very least, he's keeping that plus-minus in check. So I like to see that moving forward. And then on top of that, Barrett Hayton has actually played in the last couple of games, 3 to be exact, because he was sent down. He has recorded nothing, but his plus-minus is at least neutral. So I had to throw that in there. That's at least something to be happy about, I suppose. But other than that, nothing really too notable to point out. I mean, yeah, Crotty in 7 games, he has his first point, so that's someone that they drafted recently. But looking at the goaltending, Ivan Prosvetov in 6 games played, side note, 364 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time. He has a save percentage of 91.8% with 208 shots against. All right, he has a 5-1-0-0 record with only 17 goals allowed and a 280 goals against. It's a little high, obviously, but at the same time, when you look at it a little bit deeper, he's playing great. And Lecouve in the 1 game, didn't play the full 60, but it happens. He only allowed 1 goal, is 0-1-0-0 with a 97% save percentage. fantastic. The Tucson Roadrunners goalies have been doing, very well, especially recently. And of course, you got to see Hunter Miska and Aiden Hill play in the NHL, Colorado versus Arizona, just a few nights ago. So a lot of fun stuff there. Tucson's playing well, and they had a very solid month. Sorry I couldn't get deeper into it, but I wanted to at least give some coverage and let everyone know what's going on with Tucson. But anyway, I'm the AZ Sports Guy. So after going 5-2-0-0 in the month of February, how did Tucson play in March 2021? Well, if you ask their fans on Twitter, apparently it was close to an ECHL team. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and I'm here to do what I normally do at the end of the month, talk about the Tucson Roadrunners and how they've been playing for the last month. I've got to catch very brief portions of a few of these games, mainly listening to it while, let's say, there's a Coyotes intermission or I had a little bit of time at my desk here, but not all that much. But I am, of course, here with the notes and the numbers and, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, on March 3rd, 2021, at home against Texas, they're 5-2-0-0 heading into this one. Texas 4-3-0-0. And Ivan Prosvetov gets the start, and Tucson would not start off very well. Let's just keep it brief. Texas scored the first 4 consecutive goals. In the first on the power play at 5:19, and the second on the power play at 7:44, shorthanded in the second at 18:10, and 1:24 into the third. However, Tucson would not get shut out. At 7:55 of the third, Lane Peterson scored his third from Bunting and Jordan Schmaltz, and on the power play about 90 seconds later at 9:09, Kevin Roy is fifth from Michael Bunting and Lane Peterson, but it wouldn't last long because then at 16:52, Texas would score again. Final score is 5-2. Texas won that one. It wasn't exactly close. Lane Peterson a goal and an assist. Kevin Roy a goal. Michael Bunting 2 assists. Jordan Schmaltz had an assist. Ivan Prosvetov 26 saves, 5 goals against. He gets the loss. His record falls to 5-2-0-0. But you know what? Just start the month. Let's go ahead and see how they play in the next game. 2 days later, still hosting Texas. So 5-3-0-0 heading into this one. Texas also 5-3-0-0. Make of that one what you will. First period, McGregor is first from Somerby and Sucis at 6:19 of the first, and it was almost all Texas from there. They would score the next 5 consecutive goals in the first at 8:37, 8:56, and 14:30 on the power play. In the third at 30 seconds in and 14:32. But then in the third period at 16:34, Kevin Roy scores. It's his 6th of the season from Bunting and Capobianco. Doesn't make the loss hurt any less. Aiden Hill, actually, it was part of his couple of games. He went down there to get a little bit of practice because apparently the one NHL game he played at that point wasn't good enough practice. I don't know, whatever they're doing with that one. But he makes 31 saves, gives up 5 goals. His record is 0-1-0-0 on the season. McGregor and Roy each with a goal, and Somerby, Sucis, Bunting, and Capobianco each had assists. Okay, month isn't starting off very well. They're 0-2-0-0 at this point. Then the next day on the 6th, hosting Texas once more. Not going to give the record for this one. You guys are already probably caught up on at this point. Texas scores the first 3 goals of the game at the first, 16:34, second, 12:57, and on the power play in the second at 15:52. But then at least Tucson would score the next couple of goals to get themselves back into it. Hancock is first and second of the season. First one from McGregor, second one from Sucis at 18:56 of the second, and then 5:26 of the third. And then an empty net goal would go in for Texas, and they would win this by a final score of 4-2. Aiden Hill loses that one, 0-2-0-0 record of the season. 20 saves, 3 goals against. Not as bad that time, but that's you're not getting any wins yet, and you're already a week into the next month. But okay, they get about a week off, somewhere in there, about half a week. And then on the 12th, they go to Ontario to take on the Reign. They're 5-5-0-0. They're at 500 at this point. Ontario's 1-10-2-0. I need to emphasize this. So, Lecouve gets the start, and let's go ahead and start in the first period at 3:50. Ontario gets the first goal. It looks like Tucson's having some struggles like Arizona scoring first. But then at least Tucson would back it up and score the next couple of goals in the first at 7:44 and 8:07 respectively. Somerby is first from Roy and Peterson is fourth from Bunting and Somerby. But then still in the first, pretty active first, 13:59, Ontario would tie it. But, hey, Tucson didn't like that very much, and Kevin Roy scores his 7th from Cam Dineen and Dyson Mayo at 18:51, and Tucson has a 3-2 lead at the end of the first period. From that point, it was Ontario on. In the second, you had at 10:55, third at 11:15, and on an empty net in the third at 18:53. There you go. Tucson loses 5-3 after being up 3-2. Not the kind of loss you want. You don't want to lose in general, but that's not the kind of loss you want if you're Tucson right there. Somerby goal and an assist along with Peterson and Roy, and then Bunting, Dineen, and Mayo each had 1 assist. Lecouve has 25 saves, 4 goals against. He gets the loss 0-2-0-0. He played very well in his first game. I think I was listening to half of that one. Played very well. It didn't really seem like it it seemed like he was playing a bit over his head now that he's I got a month to see his stats. Then the next night, on March 13th, they go to San Diego, 9-7-0-0 for San Diego going into that one. Tucson's officially below 500 at 5-6-0-0, and this one was a much-needed win for Tucson. So in the first at 6-19, Jeremy Grigori is first, unassisted. Then San Diego would respond at 15-43, so it's tied all going into the second. And then the next 3 goals in a row would be all on Tucson. Second at 4-18, Michael Bunting is fifth from Kevin Roy and Lane Peterson. Then on the power play, the second, just before the end of that period, at 19:06, Peterson is fifth from Capobianco and Roy, and then in the third at 11:26, Cecise is second from Hebig and McGregor, and it's a 4-1 victory. Lecouve, 16 saves. 1 goal against, gets the win, 1-2-0-0. Lane Peterson, a goal and an assist. Gregory, Bunting, and Cecise each with a goal. Kevin Roy had 2 assists. Kevin Bianco, Hebig, and McGregor each had an assist. So you're getting going, or at that point, what, you're 1-4-0-0 in the month. That's a good response. Obviously a slightly better team than Tucson at this point, San Diego. But then just a few days later, on the 16th, they're back at home against Ontario. Ontario is 3-10-2-0 at this point. Tucson 6-6-0-0. Ontario is 3-10-2-0. I need to point that out because they would score the first 4 consecutive goals. In the first at 9-11 and 19:33, second at 2:40 and shorthanded in the third, 54 seconds in. At the very least, in the third, 7:03, Barrett Hayden would score his first from Dyson Mayo, and then Ontario would respond at 15-17. They lose this one by a score of 5-1. Barrett Hayden, it took him a few games to get going. He's got sent down. At least I was thinking Tucson would have some more talent with Barrett Hayden coming down. No, doesn't seem like that's the case. But Hayden does get a goal. Dyson Mayo gets an assist. Lecouve, 19 saves, 5 goals against, gets a loss, 1-3-0-0. And this is a pretty abysmal month so far. It's 1 win against 5 losses. Moving on to the next night, they are still at home against Ontario this time. Ontario 4-10-2-0. I keep banging that home. So then Tucson, Ontario scores the first 2 goals in the power play at 10:01 and in the first period earlier on at 3:09. I don't know why I read that the way I did. But then at least Tucson responds to the second. 3:35 in, Lane Peterson is 6th from Bunting and Capobianco. Then the next 3 consecutive goals go to Ontario. 3:47 of the second, shorthanded at 12:09, and at 14:12 of the second. At least Tucson responds just for the end of the second period on the power play at 18:31. Carconi is 4th from Deneen and Burke. Then on the empty net at 19:04, Ontario scores. They win 6-2. Nell gets this game. 26 saves, 5 goals against, gets a loss 0-1-0-0. Peterson and Carconi each with a goal. Bunting, Capobianco, Deneen, and Burke each with assists. But now you're at, 1-5-0-0 at that point. Not a very good month so far. Not a whole lot of time to turn that one back around either. Then we go ahead to March 20th, at home against San Diego. Tucson seems to play very well against San Diego. Want to put it out there, but San Diego starts the scoring at 2:01 into the first period. But then the next 5 consecutive goals go to Tucson. So in the first, just 11 seconds later at 2:12, McGregor is second from Capobianco and Cecise. Then at 3:05, Mayo is first from Bunting and Deneen. Then at 5:05, McGregor is third, second of the night, from Gregory and Deneen. And then at 10:43, Roy is 8th from Bunting and Jordan Schmaltz. And at 15:59, Gregory is second from Cecise and McGregor. Then on the power play, 36 seconds into the second, San Diego scores. But then at 11:30, Lane Peterson scores his 7th of the season from Bunting and Hayton. Hayton getting going. That's a goal and an assist in the last couple of games for him, or at least the last few games. So at least he's getting some points, kind of trying to figure out his game. But McGregor, probably the easy star of the game at that point. 2 goals, 1 assist. Gregory has 1 goal, 1 assist. Mayo, Roy, Peterson each with a goal. Deneen, Bunting, Cecise each with 2 assists. Capobianco, Hayton, Burke, and Jordan Schmaltz each with an assist. Lecouve had 40 saves. He had a very good game. 2 goals against. Gets the win 2-3-0-0. Okay, so now you're 2-5. At least you played a couple of good games. They're staying at San Diego, playing against San Diego the next night. They score the first 2 goals in that one. Though on the power play, both of them actually, 3:17 and 9:54. Both from Michael Bunting as 6th and 7th. The first one coming from Hayton and Capobianco, and the second coming from Roy and Hayton. And then the next 4 consecutive goals are all San Diego, and Tucson drops that one 4-2. Bunting had 2 goals, Hayton had 2 assists, Capobianco and Roy each had an assist. Prozatov played that one, making 34 saves, 4 goals against, but he gets the loss 5-3-0-0, and Tucson is now, 2-6 throughout the month. Is it panic time yet? And as I'm trying to pay a little bit more attention to kind of the fan perspective of the people that actually are watching this game or watching this team night in and night out, one of the comments legitimately said it looks like an ECHL squad out there, and that was kind of sad for me to read. Then on March 26th in Ontario, Tucson heads in the first, 2:33 in. Cease is third from Crotty and McGregor. Good to see Cameron Crotty getting a point on the board. Then the next two go to Ontario in the first at 4:27 and short-headed in the third at 2:14. But at least Tucson would respond. Wilkins is first from Carconi and Steenbergen on the power play at 16:41. But then in overtime at 3:58, Ontario would score, winning the game. At least they push it to overtime, so that's what, 2-6, 1-0. Cease and Wilkins each with a goal. Crotty, McGregor, Carconi, and Steenbergen each with assists. Lecouve, 21 saves, 3 goals against. Overtime loss goes to him, 2-3, 1-0 his record. So, I mean, hey, at least he got a point in that one. I don't know. I'm trying to find some positives here for the Tucson Roadrunners. The very next night, they were still in San Diego. Score the first goal, at least. They score that first goal in the power play, 18:32. Roy is ninth from Gauthier and Hayton, so good to see him still on the board. Then the next two go to San Diego. It ends 2-1 in regulation, so Roy a goal, Gauthier and Hayton each with an assist. Lecouve, 27 saves, 2 goals against, a 2-4, 1-0 record for him on the season. And right there, in regulation, he dropped another one. That's 2-7-1 on the month. And then finally tonight, well, I'm recording it just after midnight, but finally on the 31st, they're hosting Henderson. They have a 7-10-1-0 record. This team started the month 5-2-0-0, and they only got 2 wins throughout the entire month. And this one was a little bit embarrassing. It's sad because, all right, Henderson starts the scoring off at 1:03, but then Hayton is second from Burke and Capabianco on the power play 3 minutes later at 4:45. So you're going into the second tied 1-1. Then you give up 2 goals in the second period, 16-19 and 19-03 respectively. Those goals to end periods, the last minute or so, are always the backbreakers, like completely backbreaking for any squad when you look at that, because now you lose all the momentum. Then they end up getting nothing doing in the third. That's the final 3-1 they lose to Henderson. Lecouve, 14 saves, 3 goals against. He gets the loss 2-5-1-0. Hayton has a goal. Burke and Capabianco each with assists. At least there's a couple guys having some success down there in Tucson. But this month was an absolutely abysmal month for Tucson. They go if my math is great right now off the top of my head, that's 2-7-1-0. That's not going to get it done. It's definitely a little disappointing because I wanted to see Tucson win a Calder, and obviously they're still not out of it, but you need to go on a bit of a run. Arizona's had a lot of injuries, the whole taxi squad thing, and honestly, when you look at this roster, I kind of understand why some of the fans are saying it looks like an ECHL team. But at the same time, we got some positivity coming up. Let's go ahead and look right at the statistics for the team. All right, so going ahead and looking at some of the statistics for the individual players, I want to talk about at least the top 5 or so scoring players and some notables. So Michael Bunting leads the team, 16 games played, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points. And on top of that, his debut for the Coyotes last night against Colorado. Well, not a very good game for the team. He had a goal on the first shot of the game, had another assist. It was a really hard-working play, pushes over to Connor Garland. He is a very, very good bottom 6 NHL caliber player. I really want to see him stick around. But at least for Tucson, yeah, it's leading scorer, 19 points in 16 games. Kevin Roy, I've been a fan of this guy for a couple of years. It's like a lot of guys that started with the NHL games. 19 games, 9 goals, 8 assists, 17 points. So no one else besides Bunting is a point-a-game guy. Lane Peterson, 16 games, 7 goals, 10 assists, 17 points. I think he's probably up next to finally get a call-up in an actual game. He was supposed to play a couple of games ago, never ended up happening, but hey, whatever. Capabianco, 14 games, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points, only a -2. Definitely had some struggles. I think it had a lot to do with some of the confidence issues and whatnot, but the fact that he ended up joining a little bit later and is still in the top 5 in scoring, make of that what you will. McGregor, 19 games, 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points, okay. And then you look down a little bit further, Braden Burke might be a little disappointing right now, 13 games, 7 assists, but obviously there's a little bit. I think he was on the taxi squad for a little bit as well, so keep that in mind. Barrett Hayton, 15 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, a -9. Need to get him going. Jan Yannick, back in February, you were seeing his name quite a bit. Now, 15 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points, -6. As you know, he's listed as a winger, but I've also seen him listed as centers on the lineups. You kind of want to get him going, definitely. Victor Soderstrom, 18 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, -13. And Dyson Mayo. Dyson Mayo is a guy I would like to see push for a 7th defenseman roster spot eventually. 19 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, -12. Not going to get it done. It seems like Tucson has a lot of defensive issues. You're looking at just the plus minuses, the amount of goals they're giving up. I think the amount of players I'm seeing right now. So Carconi, -15. Victor Soderstrom, -13, -12 for Dyson Mayo, -13 for Tyler Steenbergen, and it sucks for him. 19 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. I like Steiner. I think Steiner's a decent player, but that's a lot of steps back, honestly, for him so far this season. And Blake Spears, only 4 games played. I've not heard anything about injuries for him yet, but I have no idea what the hell is going on there. But then looking at the goaltending stats, Ivan Prosvetov, 8 games played, a .324 goals against, 5.3 0-0 record, and a 90% save percentage. Fine, I guess. Lecouve, at 8 games played, he is 2.51-0, 90% save percentage. Aiden Hill, and for some reason, all these guys have Ivan Prosvetov's face. Aiden Hill, 86% save percentage, 0.2-0-0, a 4.13, and then Nell, even worse, 5 goal against for 83% save percentage. Yeah, Tucson's are not looking very good this year, and it sucks because it's their 5th anniversary. You like seeing that cool alternative logo on the ice, but you know what? Things happen. There's still enough season left. If you have a strong enough April, you can still make a playoff push and whatnot. So I don't have doom and gloom for Tucson right now. It's just not fun keeping track of their stats right now. Before we start, I would like to quickly thank the Tucson Roadrunners for deciding to have the brilliant marketing strategy of putting this cap for free with a $20 ticket, because as soon as I saw that, my wife had just got off work and I'm like, we're going to Tucson! So because of that, I now have my first excuse to talk about the Tucson Roadrunners this season, because up until this point, I had not had the opportunity to watch a single game this year, and it was starting to drive me a little bit crazy. So, full disclosure out of the way, I did not sit down in my seat until about halfway through the first period, because I ended up showing up late. I had to go to the bathroom when I got there, stopped to get concessions. Doesn't matter. You guys don't care about it. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into this one. So Abbotsford gets the first goal. Didn't get to watch this one at 3 minutes, 35 seconds in. Will Lockwood is stirred from Phil Giuseppe and Sheldon Dries. 1-0 Abbotsford. Can I just say, I know they're practically just carbon copies of the Vancouver jerseys, but with Johnny Canuck. I kind of like the Abbotsford jerseys, and I kind of want one, and what is wrong with me? But anyway, now we're getting into the good stuff. So I'm just sitting down. If I'm feeling a little bit frosty, I'll go ahead and throw my view of the ice right there on screen. But I got to watch this play literally like seconds after I sat down. So Michelli comes over across the line and just snipes this one. 11 minutes, 11 seconds in, his 6th of the season. And I'm going to say it right now, I need to dedicate an entire video to Matthias Michelli. He is playing phenomenal. There's little plays where he had throughout the game, especially one when they were down, I think it was in the second period, down on the other end, where he was kind of spinning around, making the defense look dumb. He reminds me so much of Connor Garland, except for he's not physical like Connor Garland, to the point where I'm like, Matthias Michelli is going to be a stud. Anyway, his 6th from Yanis Moser and Michael Carconi. And real quick, before I move on to the next one, I want to talk about Yanis Moser just for a couple of seconds. And one thing that Kyle Pereira, when I was first doing covering the Coyotes draft this season, he mentioned about Yanis Moser is that you're not really going to notice him much on the ice. He does not make very many mistakes. You know, pretty good puck moving defenseman. I have to say this right now, I was going out of my way to try to watch him specifically as much as possible. Mostly him and Michelli were the couple guys that I was really trying to keep a laser focus on, because Prosvetov wasn't playing. But you really just kind of forget he's out there, and not in any sort of bad context. And I asked my wife, hey, how many times do I really mention defensemen? And when I, mention defensemen, how often am I angry at them? Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Alex Goligoski. I think you get the point. The only one I really mention on the regular that I'm a really big fan of is Kyle Capobianco. So in reality, just kind of going out there, doing your job, doing all the little things right, that's a huge compliment. And I think Yanis Moser, that was probably one of the most true things Kyle Pereira told me throughout that entire process, is he is the most NHL ready defenseman, and I'm just glad they're keeping him in Tucson for a year or two. Don't rush the kids up to the NHL. You got plenty of time. They're in a rebuilding phase. But yeah, no, out of every single player so far the Coyotes have drafted, even the ones that are supposed to be closer to the NHL level, he is, in my opinion, the closest to that, and probably the 2 or 3 that come next behind him is like Michelli and Unique. Anyway, 4 minutes later, at 15 minutes, 10 seconds of the first period, Boko Amama, he just brings it across the line, shoots it. This was a snipe. I did not know Amama had a shot like that. I know they primarily brought him in so that way you can have a little more physicality, a little more sandpaper. He'll get some depth scoring for you. I did not expect a goal that looked that nice. His 2nd from Ty Emberson and Louis Zerder Gossage. I hope I'm saying that right, but all I know is that out of all those guys, guys, I think I vaguely recognize Ty Emberson. But we are not done, you say. 40 seconds later, Cameron Hebig. I want to just kind of preface this by Michelli was coming across the line. Once again, I have a perfect dead-on sight of this. Coming across the line, he's kind of looking around like he's going to fake with something. Drops it back for Hebig, and he just kind of shoots himself off to the side for a second. And Hebig doesn't even hold on to it for that long. Winds up and just lets go of a wrister. That was such a beautiful snipe. I now like Cameron Hebig, and I did not think I was going to like Cameron Hebig because he's not one of the primary prospects that's ever going to make the NHL. But as I get to watch a little more Tucson, you kind of realize the guys that are just going to be Roadrunners that you're going to end up liking, and I think that he's probably going to end up being a fan favorite. Anyway, that's his third from Michelli and Soderstrom, and now I get my final transition to talk about a specific player, Victor Soderstrom. This might be a controversial take. I don't really care. I like to give you guys my honest opinions. I think Victor Soderstrom, from a defensive perspective, might end up being an NHL level bust because offensively, I've seen big steps backwards over the last couple of seasons. It doesn't really matter of the context with that. Last year at the start of the year, he just kind of shot the puck and wasn't afraid to do so. When he came up this year, he kind of got away from that and was terrified to even touch the puck. Watching him in Tucson, he could barely skate. He wasn't playing defense borderline whatsoever. He was getting outmaneuvered by literally everyone around him. And whereas Yanis Moser was logging a lot of minutes and you would just kind of forget he was out there, wasn't making very many mistakes, every single time Soderstrom was out there, I noticed him. Not just because he was one of a couple of players I was trying to focus on, but because I constantly saw him just falling over his own feet, turning the puck over, looking afraid to touch the puck in the defensive zone. And even then, despite the fact that he did end up getting the secondary assist on that Hebig goal, it didn't really matter in my opinion because he didn't want to touch the puck. He turned the puck over a few too many times for my liking that were just really bad plays. Something has to change with Victor Soderstrom's game, and it might just take him the rest of the year in Tucson to figure it out. Things happen all the time. Next year he can look phenomenal. In 10 games he can look phenomenal. But as of right now, especially as I've noticed throughout the year, and I really got a good close look in Tucson last night, Victor Soderstrom, I'm getting major potential bust vibes. However, I remember when I was heavily critical of Clayton Keller when he was just kind of turning the puck over constantly, making terrible passes, being a liability on the offensive side of the puck back in 18-19. Look what happened there. Barrett Hayton, I looked at him throughout the preseason. I thought he was probably done because last year in Tucson, what little I got to watch, I didn't think he looked all that good. He's playing very well in Arizona right now. So this could be a natural process along every Coyote prospect's development, but I just feel the need to at least mention that because I noticed that it stuck out to me like a sore thumb, and I really, really hope I'm wrong there, but Soderstrom just kind of, I don't exactly know how else to describe it. Oh, anyway, Sheldon Dries is 7th from Giuseppe and Brisebois. There you go, before the end of the first period, 19:07, 53 seconds remaining, and after that third goal, the Tucson Roadrunners scored 3 consecutive goals. They were controlling the entire pace. About 50 seconds after that, they took some bad penalties. Really undisciplined hockey. Some pretty good hits though, pretty fun hits. But they just completely ran out of gas. They kind of stopped playing defense, and as much as, look, is it Ross McIntyre was playing tonight? Let me double check this. Zane McIntyre. As well enough as I feel like he played tonight, the defense was not doing him any favors, and he wasn't exactly all that great himself, and the next 3 goals would go to Abbotsford, so that one at 19:07 in the first Dries. But in the second period, I'm not even going to pretend I can pronounce this guy's name. At 11:27, Jared Lukovicius. You can yell at me in the comment section. His third, and then a couple minutes later at 13:22, John Stevens, his third from Jet Wu, which is one player ever since Shannon kind of mentioned him a few videos ago, and I noticed that Jet Wu was on the ice. First off, he got both primary assists on both those goals in the second period, so if you're a Vancouver fan, there you go. It made him stick out to me, and I was watching him a little bit, so he seems fine. However, my wife had to work at 7 o'clock this morning, so we had to leave at the end of the second period. Like I said, did not even get home until midnight, but I was paying attention via Twitter to see what was going on with the Tucson Roadrunners game. The last 5 minutes of this game was all Tucson, and I love it, and I really wish I would have still been there because I don't like when I have to leave games early, but when I go all the way down to Tucson, it's like 2.5 hour drive back up, gotta go drop off the brother. Doesn't matter, we're moving on. Cameron Hebig, second of the night from Michelli and Moser, is 4th of the season. That's Michelli's 10th assist, and if you're keeping track, second primary assist in the night at 14:20, so within the last 5 minutes or so. 19:09 with 51 seconds remaining. Yanis Moser is fourth from, you guessed it, Michelli and Yan Yannick. So there you go. Michelli not only had a goal, he had the goal that actually ended up tying the game in the first period and starting the Roadrunners offense, but he had 3 primary assists, including the primary assist on the tying goal and the winning goal. Stop Matthias Michelli if you can. You could try. The kid is an absolute beast. 6 goals, 11 assists on the season. Keep him in Tucson all year. Do not let him come to the NHL yet. Keep him in Tucson just for the rest of the year. Let this kid thrive. And then next year, give him a look at the NHL level. I don't care if it's only for 5 games. Just give him a look. And that one ends up being your final. The Tucson Roadrunners defeat the Abbotsford Canucks by a final score of 5-4. Zane McIntyre gets the win. He's 2-0-0-0 in the season. I do have to double check and see what happened to Josef Kozanash. I'm assuming he's injured. The AHL never really reports on their injuries. Hell, I didn't even know that Liam Kirk was out for the year. I didn't even know he was injured until the Coyotes PR Twitter said, oh, he underwent successful surgery, he's out for the year. And I'm like, huh? What? Because the AHL has a limited roster, so they don't really report on injuries. But I'm gonna go ahead and say headcanon because Kozanash sucks. That's why he's not playing. I'm assuming he's injured. But you know what I'm saying? McIntyre's playing well enough from what I can tell for the couple of games he's played. Ivan Prozotov's also been playing. That was a really good bounce back game from the other night. Calling him up just to throw him out there against the Tampa Bay Lightning was a stupid idea for his development. Anyway, the Tucson Roadrunners win this game. I believe now their record is above 500, and I'm going to make a little more of an effort to try to pay attention more closely other than just taking their notes. I want to see if I can do a few more game reports, and I do have a video planned about Matthias Michelli because, man, is that kid good. Alright, so today we're going to talk about the Arizona Coyotes' best prospect in the system currently. There is no number 2 or number 3. Yes, we have Donor Jr., but even as good as Donor Jr. is going to be, Michelli is on a whole different planet. Matthias Michelli was drafted in the 4th round, 98th overall in the 2019 NHL entry draft. Funny enough, the first ever draft I would have covered. And let's just say he reminds me a lot of my last favorite Coyotes player, who also started in Tucson, became my favorite player when he was in Tucson, Connor Garland. When I was at the Abbotsford game the other week, and I'm just seeing Michelli spinning around, making defenders look stupid, passing the puck so crisp and clean, and then that shot just being an absolute snipe. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. He is their current best prospect, and I'm also gonna say I have no problem saying he will probably end up being better than just about any other player they have currently on their NHL roster, which is good. You need that. You definitely need that. I mean, Connor Garland was drafted in, what, the 5th round, and he was better than everyone else on the ice the last couple years? Anyway, after it took him a few games to kind of get his feet settled at the AHL level, he finally recorded his first AHL goal on November 12th against Ontario. He actually tied that game 3-3 at that point. He would also score 2 more goals and record 2 assists. The game he scored his first ever AHL goal was also the game he scored his first ever AHL hat trick and recorded 5 points total, 3 goals and 2 assists. Absolute monster. Then the next night against Ontario once more on the 13th, he would record an assist, putting his totals over those 2 games to 3 goals and 3 assists. He wouldn't record any points the next game on the 19th at Iowa. However, 2 days later during the rematch, he scored a goal, putting his totals to 4 goals and 3 assists over the last 4 games. But he wasn't done, like I mentioned the Abbotsford game. On the 26th, he recorded a goal and an assist, and on the 27th, one of those 2 games I went to, I believe it was the one on the 26th, he recorded a goal and 3 assists. That's points in 5 out of 6 games. And then finally, the first of 2 games at Colorado on December 3rd, he would record an assist. Last night, they ended up getting shut out, so he would wrap up this hot streak, not only with a 4-game point streak, scoring in 6 out of 7 games, but in those 6 games, he would score 6 goals and 8 assists for 14 points in 7 games. He is literally a 2-point per game player right now. That is how just fire hot, red hot Matthias Michelli is playing right now, because the kid is a stud. He is going to be a beast. Even if he continues this development at just half of that production right there, he's still going to be right around a point per game guy. If you translate even like 3/4 of that to the NHL level, man, that's gonna be a good hockey player right there. Even if it's only 20 goals and like 30 assists, I'll take 50 points. I will take perennial 50-point scorer. You know, going into this season, I knew Tucson was gonna be pretty good, and I knew I was gonna specifically want to watch Matthias Michelli. I mentioned it in the review I made for that specific game, but there was one play, his first goal when I was sitting down was a snipe, and then coming back down the ice a couple plays later, he looks like he's gonna fake or pass around, just drops pops it back, shoots himself out of the way, and then I think it was Hebig ends up scoring that one, but he's just so flawless with the puck. He knows where to put it. He doesn't make bad passes. He shoots very efficiently. There's a lot to be excited about Matthias Maccelli. Don't rush him into the NHL. Keep him in. I don't care if he scores 50 goals this year. Keep him in Tucson for the remainder of the season. Don't ruin this one, all right? We have the next Connor Garland right there, plus Dylan Gunther, plus Josh Dunn. We can have like 3 Connor Garlands in 3 years. Don't mess this up. I don't really get to watch Tucson Roadrunners games anymore. In fact, I think I've only watched 2 or 3 this year, but I still do take notes for each and every single game, so let's go ahead and take a look at what's been going on with the Roadrunners so far this month between January 4th and January 12th, 2022. We start off on the 4th where the Roadrunners would host the Stockton Heat in a game where they would actually win 2-1 with goals by Victor Soderstrom, his second from Unique and McCartney at 1:29 in the first on the power play, and Yan Unique his 5th from Soderstrom and Fasching on the power play in the third at 6:44, so obviously both their goals coming on the power play, and Yan Unique and Victor Soderstrom both having 1 goal and 1 assist in that game, playing well enough to get the win. Ivan Prosvetov, 30 saves, 1 goal against. So the next night on the 5th, still hosting Stockton, the Roadrunners would fall 5-2. The goals coming from Broadhurst, his 3rd from Foley and Amama, and Carconi, his 6th, both coming in the second at 6:12 and 17:18. Ivan played a little over half the game, somewhere around 33 minutes, 13 saves, 4 goals against, just wasn't his night. Skip ahead a few days to the 8th, hosting Colorado in a pretty close game where the scoring did not get started until the 3rd period, where Yan Unique scored his 6th from Michael Carconi and Matthias Maccelli. That's his first game of these 5 played. On the power play at 5:28 of the 3rd, then Boko Omama his 3rd from Red Cop, and Emberson goes to the shootout. They do end up losing, but Kozanosh, 37 saves, 2 goals against, playing pretty well on that one. The Roadrunners going 1-1-1 at that point. Next night on the 9th, still hosting Colorado. This one, Colorado won 5-3. The goals for Tucson, Maccelli is 8th from Kolyachonok and Carconi on the power play at 15:08 of the 1st. Carconi is 7th from Soderstrom and Fasching on the power play. Carconi is 7th from Soderstrom and Fasching in the second period on the power play with about 10 seconds to go in the period. Then Boko Omama his 4th from Elnuk at 9:41 of the 3rd, but despite the fact they gave up 3, Prosy gave up 5, 43 saves with the 5 goals against, takes the loss. 1-2-1 so far throughout this stretch at that point. Then last night's game, I was following along on my phone as I was watching the Coyotes game, but they actually won 4-3 in San Jose. Tucson scoring started off in the first on the power play at 16:16. Unique his 7th from Maccelli and Holtz. Skip ahead to 13 minutes of the 3rd. Maccelli is 9th from Fasching and Unique, so a goal and an assist at that point. A minute 5 seconds later, Hebig is 6th from Maccelli and Barron. And finally, the dagger with about a minute 30 left on the power play. Blake Spears from Elnuk and Amama, and your final is 4-3. Tucson finishes off the week 2-2-1 and manages that victory. Since Prosy was backing up Vamelka last night, Kozanosh gets the start, 20 saves, 3 goals against. Decent enough. But one thing that stuck out to me was the amount of power play goals. So they scored a total of 13 goals over those 5 games, so it's a little over, 2.5 goals per game. 7 of those goals came on the power play, so a little over half came on the power play. Prosy went 1-2-0 with 86 saves, 10 goals again. Kozanosh, who did play in 3 games, so both Prosy and Kozanosh played the exact same amount of games. Kozanosh actually came in for Prosvetov in one of those games. 1-0-1, 68 saves, 5 goals against, so same amount of games played, half the goals given up. Saves are right around the same though. Prosy had 20 more saves, so pretty close. Top scorers throughout this stretch, so Matthias Maccelli, 2 goals, 3 assists in 3 games. Not only an assist per game, also has a couple of goals there too. In retrospect, I'm glad he didn't end up making his NHL debut yet, because I just don't want to rush this kid, because he's going to be good. He's already good, but I think at the NHL level, he's going to be pretty good. Yan Unique, 3 goals, 2 assists, a point per game, productive streak for him. Of course, you got to throw in Michael Carconi playing pretty well, 1 goal and 2 assists, but a name I was not expecting. Kind of doing it quietly, a point here, a point there. Boko Omama, 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 5 games. He's playing really well right now, productive. I did not expect that level of production, nearly a point per game over this stretch. The move to add Omama is looking pretty good right now. Obviously, he had some sandpaper, but he's providing more depth scoring than I figured he would. Good job. One more thing I'd like to note is that throughout all these 5 games, Tucson only held a team to below 3 goals once. That was a 2-1 victory against Stockton. They gave up 4 or more goals 3 of those 5 games. 3 or more goals 4 of those 5 games, and 2 of those 5 games they gave up 5 goals total. And I think only 1 of those goals was an empty net goal, so that's not the best. Plus the over-reliance on power play scoring. The AHL is kind of a mess right now, obviously, with the COVID protocols. A lot of players going up, going down. A lot of players that wouldn't normally be playing right now now in the AHL coming into play. It's all a little weird right now, but there's still some things to kind of keep note of that Tucson could improve on because they're still keeping themselves right there in that playoff hunt, assuming the playoffs happen. Internet's still out in my house, but you know what? The show must go on. I do have a smartphone. So let's go ahead and talk about the news. Michael Carcone has been named AHL Player of the Week for the week ending in February 6th, so only a couple of days late. In last week's 2-game set against San Diego, Carcone scored 5 of Tucson's 8 goals, including scoring a hat trick, his 4th at the AHL level. Carcone now leads all Roadrunners forwards with 15 goals and is ranked second on the team with points at 26 in just 33 games. I'm also going to use this as an excuse to say the other night in Abbotsford, Michelli had 4 assists. Stud! Anyway, congratulations to Michael Carcone on being AHL Player of the Week. Phenomenal week for him, had 2 goals in a loss and a hat trick in a win. What is it with Tucson having these guys seemingly come out of nowhere and just play phenomenal for them, even though they keep losing hockey games? But you know what? We're not going to talk about the negative, we're just going to be happy about the positive, and there's a little bit of Roadrunners for you, I suppose. Alright, so I'm definitely probably like a month and a half late on this, but let's go ahead and just show some love to the Tucson Roadrunners. Actually wearing my original jersey I bought, I think around 2019 with my tax return, and it's a small, so I'm surprised it fits. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the Tucson Roadrunners 2021-22 season, a season that honestly was just disappointing in general. This should have been a much better team overall, and they just weren't. I mean, they did not finish dead last in the division at least, but not really saying much. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the 2021-22 Roadrunner season, starting with opening night. The season kicked off October 15th, 2021 in Stockton in a game where the Tucson Roadrunners came out of there with a 1-0 victory. The game winner came at 1 minute 56 seconds of the overtime from Vladislav Kolyachonok, with the assist going to Matthias Michelli and Cam Dineen. Ivan Prosvetov recorded 29 saves to open the season with a shutout, and just like that, Tucson, as per usual, starts the season looking pretty okay. They would actually go 3-3-0, so at the very least you're playing 500 hockey, and there was a couple notable events to happen throughout that month. Starting off on October 23rd, Liam Kirk would actually score his first professional goal, his first AHL goal. On that same game against Texas on October 23rd, Ben McCartney would record a hat trick. Tucson won that game handily. Oh, and Ivan Prosvetov, he would record a second shutout that month. It was a 19-save shutout, but he still had 2. At the end of October, it was actually Ben McCartney who led the Roadrunners in goals with 4. Then again, a hat trick in the first couple of games will help you out there. Moving on to November would be pretty much more of the same. They had a 4-3-1 record, so about 500 hockey. Now, unfortunately, in one of the first couple of games of the month in Henderson, Liam Kirk would leave with an injury. He would have season-ending surgery and would not return, which really sucks because honestly, he was playing pretty well to that point, and I really would have liked to see him play a whole season. Hopefully he'll be back next year. Anyway, to move on from that sad news, let's talk about Matthias Michelli, because Michelli had himself a November. First off, on the 12th against Ontario, he would record his first career hat trick. By the end of the month, he was the leading goal scorer with 6, all of them coming in the month of November. He also had 7 assists for 11 points. Yeah, he was playing very well, at around a point per game, if not higher. He also had 7 assists and 11 total points, so Michelli was over a point per game in November. Then we move on to December, and it was just more of the same. 3-3-1 record with a couple notable events. On a game against the Henderson Silver Knights on December 14th, Barron had himself a multi-goal game. Ivan Prosvetov had a monster performance on the 10th against Stockton, where he put up 47 saves to get that W. Speaking of Ivan Prosvetov, he had to make 30 or more saves in 5 of 6 of his starts that month. Honestly, I think that stat really goes to show that Tucson's defense just wasn't that good last season. Pretty much anyone you're throwing in goal is only going to have limited success, but Prosy had a phenomenal month, at least trying to keep pucks out of the net. The amount of saves, the raw save. And before we leave December, on December 1st, 2021, it was announced that Matthias Michelli was named the Rookie of the Month in the AHL, obviously for how well he played in November, but that also happened in December. Had to throw it in here somewhere. Then we hit the month of January, and things just kind of start going downhill. On average, Tucson's getting about 3 wins per month. They go 3-9-1 in the month of January. The new year was not great to them. They went on a season-high 7-game losing streak. Not gonna help you there. But Matthias Michelli and Michael Carcone were helping to kind of alleviate pressure. Michelli had 3 assists in a game against Ontario on the 23rd, and he would actually record 3 goals and 12 assists throughout the entire month, with the leading goal scorer that month being Michael Carcone with 5 goals and 4 assists. Michelli had more assists than Carcone Carcone had points that month. And Carcone played very well. We hit February, we get a little closer to 500 hockey with a 4-6-0 record. And at the end of this month, going into the next month, they would record their second 7-game losing streak of the season, going from the 27th of February to the 16th of March. But it wasn't all bad. Carcone got a hat trick on the 5th against San Diego. In fact, Carcone had a lot of goals in his first couple of games. Being a total of 6 goals in his first 2 games played in February, he was playing very well. There's a reason he earned himself a spot in Arizona. Oh, and then Carcone just scored another hat trick on the 26th that month against Ontario. You know, nothing special. Then we hit March, so obviously the beginning of that month, a lot of losses because it led into that second 7-game losing streak, but it wasn't all bad, because on March 1st, 2021, Matthias Michelli was named the AHL Rookie of the Month for the second month of the season. He had himself a really good rookie year. I think he's probably going to make the team up in Arizona in the next couple of seasons. Then we have a pretty good homegrown story, though it is a little funny. So Colin Thiessen, former ASU Sun Devil, finished the season in ASU, then goes to Tucson to sign with the Tucson Roadrunners, and he then finished out the season. He records his first goal, and I think his second or third game with the team, on March 35th at Henderson. Speaking of Henderson, the Tucson Roadrunners would finish off the month of March with back-to-back wins there, so at the very least, the month ended okay. Then we hit April and just kind of bottoms out again, a 3-9-1 record throughout, and they won their last 2 games of the season, just for context, so it was a lot of losing throughout the month. Anyway, Ben McCartney records a hat trick once again. I want to say it's his 3rd hat trick of the season on April 16th. He actually led the team in scoring that month. 6 goals and 1 assist. Yeah, no, I think Ben McCartney is probably going to be a pretty good young player as well. Colin Thiessen had 4 more goals throughout the month. He scored so much, or at the very least, Tucson had such little depth overall, scoring-wise at the very least, that Colin Thiessen actually made his way around the top 15 in scoring despite not playing very many games. I'll get more into that in a little bit. On the bright side, like I said, they did end the season with back-to-back wins at home. And yes, let's go ahead and just talk about the attendance, because I want to have a little bit of positivity here. 5,410 fans in the last game of the season, so yes, they will have more fans there than the Coyotes will for the next 3 years. Laugh. So Tucson, let's talk about where they finished. So they finished 8th in the Pacific, 2nd to last. All right, only the San Jose Barracuda were worse than them. They finished with a 23-39-5-1 record. That's just 52 points. I think the Arizona Coyotes have more points this year. And to add just a little bit more salt to the wound, there were only 8 players who recorded 20 points or more on the team. It was a rough year all around. Now, obviously, for the last handful of seasons, Arizona's had a lot of injuries. They tend to take some of the best players from Tucson. The problem was, even when Tucson was at their best this season, they just weren't good enough. The 2022 NHL entry draft cannot come fast enough because the Tucson Roadrunners desperately need a good infusion of good, solid young talent into this roster, because that's just not going to get it done. At any level of hockey, only 8 players scoring 20 points is not going to get it done. Colin Thiessen, actually 16th overall on the team, so he had in 6 games, 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points. Considering the fact that the guy above him, Empe, had 63 games played, and Ty Emberson, the guy below him, had 58 games played, it really should put into context just how lacking scoring overall was in Tucson this year. On the bright side, you had a couple of good players shine, so JJ Moser, you already know what he did at the NHL level, but at the AHL level, 18 games, 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points, only a -3, and just considering how bad this team was defensively, -3 is not bad. For context, Cameron Hebig, -32, Broadhurst, -27. Holtz, -17. Boko Omama, -21. Empe, -24. Emerson, -25. Somerby, -15. Unique, -27. McCartney, -22. All the goals he had. Hudson Fasching, -22. Victor Soderstrom, -12. Parison, not all that bad. Speaking of Victor Soderstrom, I got to go to a couple of games last year. I try to watch him as much as I can. I think defensively, he's figuring out some things. At the AHL level, it wasn't quite as good as you would have liked, but he was playing pretty well. He was also moving the puck pretty well. At the AHL level, in 32 games, 3 goals, 16 assists, 19 points. As a puck-moving defenseman, if that starts to translate more to the NHL, not bad. Not quite where his draft pedigree is, but not bad. You need to kind of look at the situation as, here's where he is he getting better than he was last year? He seems gun-shy. Snake bit, however you want to call it, I remember 2 years ago, I was like, if I had the opportunity, I would just shoot the puck. And then he comes up last year, and he wasn't shooting the puck. Down here, he wasn't shooting the puck at all when he was playing for Tucson. Tucson. It's one of those things where I know defensemen take longer, but the Coyotes drafted him to be an offensive defenseman, and he's transitioning very much into that kind of puck-moving two-way defenseman, which could still be useful. It could still work at the NHL level. It is disappointing. Unfortunately, it is disappointing. Ben McCartney had himself a solid season, 57 games, 18 goals, 17 assists, 35 points, almost a 20-goal scorer. There was only one 20-goal scorer on the team in actuality, and that was Michael Carcone, 48 games, 24 goals, 17 assists, 41 points. Damn near a point per game, about a goal every other game. Michael Carcone has done everything he possibly can at the AHL level. His game translates to a bottom six role at the NHL level. I liked what he did with the Coyotes last year, even limited minutes, obviously. That goal in the last game of the season, I called it. I'm like, he's going to Carcone, and he scored that power play goal. At least I think it was a power play goal. But I think the guy's good, and it's another one of those things where Tucson ends up grabbing these guys out of nowhere, essentially, and they might end up, making a crack at the Coyotes roster. I think that's a really cool thing. We have Hudson Fasching, the captain of the Roadrunners. He was announced about halfway through the season. I don't know if they bring him back next year because Dakota Mermis, he got announced captain towards the end of that year. They show him in the New Jersey, and then he ends up going to New Jersey anyway. But 51 games, 14 goals, 23 assists, 33 points, negative 22. I know he's a winger, but still, it's maybe they're probably going to move on from him. He's kind of the last remnant of that core that I was watching when I first got, back into hockey, or I was really paying attention at 18, 19. Garland, Bunting, Peterson, Gennaro, guys like that. He's pretty much the last of all those players. It's going to kind of suck to probably watch him leave, but if he does come back for a year, that'll be good. Talk about Jan Jeník. 51 games, 17 goals, 30 assists, 47 points. He finally is kind of coming into his own. He played pretty well at the NHL level too. Only had a couple of goals, I think both against San Jose, but Jan Jeník, it's taken him a while, but he finally seems like he's kind of breaking through. He's going to be at the NHL level. Probably a third line center, but you can use that. That's still valuable at the NHL level. He had borderline a breakout year. It's funny. It seems like every single year, once the leading scorer in Tucson or that breakout electric player leaves, and the next guy pops up. I think it was Connor Garland the first year, Michael Bunting, Lane Peterson, Matthias Michelli / Jan Jeník right here. Tucson does a pretty good job at once that open spot in the top six opens up, someone runs with it, and someone earns themselves an NHL job. Jan Jeník probably earned himself an NHL spot. Michael Carcone probably earned himself an NHL spot, and then Matthias Michelli. 47 games, and I wanted him to be I wanted him in the AHL all season. I wanted him to just lock him down there no matter what. He played too well. He was playing far too well. They could not justify keeping him down. 47 games, 14 goals, solid. Probably the Ray Whitney type or the Radim Verbata once Whitney left type, where he wants the puck on his stick. He's going to want to set guys up mostly. 43 assists. 57 points. He's really the only player on the team that's played like 35 games plus that had a point per game, over a point per game in fact. He was damn near an assist per game all season. He needed 4 more to be solidly an assist per game. What is it, 1.21 points a game? That is the highest points per game by a mile on any of these players. Jan Jeník is the next one, 0.92. Good season. Yeah, Michelli played too well. His game did get figured out a little bit at the NHL level. Had a pretty explosive first 5 or so games, then it kind of went quiet. But in the offseason, if he can just take everything to heart that he learned at the NHL level, I know they send him back down towards the end of the season to give him a little more time at the AHL level. But if he used that time valuably, this training camp, he's probably going to be much improved. And I would give it halfway through next season before he gets his next big chance at the NHL. And if he makes those necessary improvements, Michelli will be a full-time NHLer the second half of next year and then just onward. So I am beyond excited to see what this kid can do. Now let's talk goaltending. Josef Kozanash just did not have himself a good season. 22 games played, 4.46 goals against, 8.55 save percentage. It didn't work out. 3.13 1-1 record. I don't really know what else to say there. He didn't look good, didn't work out. Rasmus Koronen, on the other hand, had himself a couple of good games, 5 games total, 2-2-0 record, 2.98 goals against, not great, but not terrible. 8.89 save percentage. It was higher for the first couple of games because he came out playing really well. Give him a full season as the full-time backup, or if Ivan Prosvetov comes up, earns that backup spot this year, I think Anson Thornton probably earns a spot. I think he'll be eligible to go to the AHL next year. So you have Koronen and Thornton next year, or just Koronen and Tendick, with Thornton taking one more year in juniors or wherever his league is. I think that's one to look at because Koronen, pretty solid goaltender from what I can tell, even though the numbers are not going to back it up. David Tendick, a player that I never thought I'd actually see play for the Roadrunners, 4 games, 1-1-0 record, 2.29 goals against, 9.21 save percentage. He looked just surprisingly good. I would not be surprised if he's going to be the Tucson goaltender for the next couple of years. You probably noticed the one name I left off, Ivan Prosvetov. So Prosy right here, 45 games played, not his best season. His numbers have been going consistently down at the NHL level. Those 2 shutouts, he he had in the first month back in October, the only shutouts he would have all season. 366 goals against, 880 save percentage. It could have been a lot worse. It's one of those things where I look at it like it's a combination of he did not have a great season. It was probably mediocre at best. Some good games, some good stretches, a lot of mediocrity. The defense in front of him was just putrid the majority of the year. It's one of those things where I'm looking at Ivan like I think it's not all on Ivan, and I think it's probably something where if he goes to the NHL next year, he'll have more success. He might be an Aiden Hill type, where he has a good year or two in the AHL, and then his numbers kind of never look that good after that 1 or 2 good years, or good stints, really. Comes up to the NHL, puts up solid backup numbers. Ivan probably is going to slot in as a backup. I would love to see him, prove me wrong, I'd love to see him be a starter, but I think that his numbers are probably going to be, pretty solid for a backup when he comes up to the NHL full time. His save percentage did go up last year. He posted that, 921 save percentage game against Colorado, the Stanley Cup champions, mind you. Yes, he got blown up by the Stanley Cup champions the previous year in Tampa Bay, but still, I just think that he'll probably be on the Coyotes next year. I don't see him being a Roadrunner next year. All right, all that's out of the way. That's, their month-by-month record, their total record, the player totals. In reality, what am I expecting next year? What are my thoughts on this year? This year was a train wreck. It was bad all throughout. Players couldn't stay healthy. Pretty much, when they lost Liam Kirk, that didn't ruin the entire season or anything, but Liam Kirk, I would have loved to see him get a full season, just show what he can do, show what he's made of, and when you start losing your top scorers, then Michelli gets called up, it was obviously later, Carcone gets called up, obviously later as well, but when you start losing guys, and you're grabbing anyone that will essentially play for you, just signing a bunch of AHL contracts, yeah, it doesn't look all that good, and on top of that, a lot of these players are players that the Tucson Roadrunners signed, so they're not guys that the Coyotes have under contract, not guys the Coyotes drafted, so it's not even like I can look at it from the perspective I saw the Coyotes season, where it's, hey, at least all these players are growing, or at least all these players are moving forward. It's only a handful of players that were. Soderstrom's moving the puck better. That is good. I think Ivan showed flashes of brilliance. Also good. A lot of mediocrity too. A lot of poor play as well. A lot of that. I definitely think that Matthias Michelli is going to be legit. I think he's going to be a great player. Give him another half season in the AHL at least, please. Half a season more. Yannick coming into his own. Ben McCartney really developing into a solid power forward type. I would not mind seeing McCartney come up, kind of take one of these spots in the fourth or third line somewhere in there. But, injuries, of course, not like by the start of the season, but there's a couple of good young players here. Even Rasmus Kronen, he showed a little bit. So did David Tendick, surprisingly. I expected nothing from the guy, and he played pretty well in the handful of games he played. But the season as a whole was a failure. Players couldn't stay healthy at the AHL level. They couldn't stay healthy at the NHL level. The defense was putrid. The goaltending was not anything to write home about. And the offense, yeah, it showed flashes of brilliance. I thought the offense was probably the best part of the team. It didn't translate to enough wins. But on the bright side, there really is nowhere to go but up, because with the Coyotes having 7 of the top 45 picks in the draft on Thursday, probably in the next couple of days when you see this, Tucson should be getting a nice influx of young talent. They did get a couple this year, but Yanis Moser right back up to the NHL. He kind of just passed right through. So when you have a couple of situations like that, yeah, it just kind of turns into one of those things where, yeah, you had the talent come in, but they just jumped right past you. Anyway, Tucson, disappointing year. Really bad year, in fact. But there were some bright spots. There were some good things. Hat tricks, some good Rookie of the Month honors for Matthias Michelli. A couple of good stories. And the story should be a lot brighter next year. Alright, I'm like a week late on this. I bookmarked it on Twitter. I just forgot to sit down and record the video. But we have some phenomenal news, some Arizona connections going on here. As of June 29th, 2022, so about a week ago as of right now, the Tucson Roadrunners have signed Colin Thiessen, former Arizona State Sun Devil as recently as last season, to a 1-year AHL contract. This means that he signed to the Roadrunners, not the Coyotes, though I'm pretty sure the Coyotes, if they wanted to, they could just sign him to a 1-year contract at the NHL level as well, but this is just an AHL level contract. Anyway, here's a couple of things you need to know about Colin Thiessen. I also want to get into a quick quote from the general manager, so let's go ahead and get to the quote first. Tucson Roadrunners general manager John Ferguson said the following quote: "After an outstanding season at ASU, Colin adjusted well to American Hockey League competition with the Roadrunners. We look forward to seeing the progress he has made for the upcoming season. He played well." How well? Let's go ahead and look at it right now. He was the 3rd leading scorer on the team after joining them. He joined them right around March 2022, a little bit after after the Sun Devil season was over. He had 5 goals and 6 assists for 11 points in 16 games. Like I said, he was playing very well. He was also the leading scorer for the Arizona State Sun Devils in 2021-22, which is funny because he's playing for the Roadrunners. He's right there in U of A country. And if you go outside of the concourse, there's this little wall of like U of A hockey. Most of their accomplishments have been beating ASU here or there, so make of that what you will. Look, Cullen, great young player. It's good to see someone that I've been paying attention to. I haven't really got to watch much ASU hockey. It's mostly highlights, mostly keeping track of the score on pen and paper. But it's good to see someone that's playing hockey in Arizona at ASU, getting to see a little more alumni here, going to the AHL, going to the next level, going to the NHL, hopefully. Because realistically speaking, with how Tucson does this, they always find these players kind of out of nowhere. If Colin Thiessen has a phenomenal season, if he plays kind of like Michael Carcone, he could end up getting an NHL contract in a year or so, and you might be seeing a Sun Devil alum playing alongside Josh Doan in training camp. I like it. It's the thought of that makes me happy. The thought of that makes me really happy. But look, Colin, great job, great work. You're one of the best Roadrunners last year in your brief appearance. Only 16 games. I'm just beyond excited. Take this opportunity and run with it, all right? I want to see Colin Thiessen right up there, top 3 scoring with Matthias Michelli and let's just say Liam Kirk. He has a bounce back season. I want that to be the top 3 scoring in Tucson next season and them all to get one step closer to joining the Coyotes. So with that being said, good job. Glad you're staying in the desert. I do find it funny that a Sun Devil alum is playing in Wildcat country, but no pity for the kitty. Let's do it, boys. You didn't think I'd forget about the Roadrunners, did you? Because even though I don't really have time to watch them anymore, I'm not going to forget about them. Let's go ahead and give the Roadrunners a little bit of attention as they started their season in Henderson over the weekend. But we start this episode of Roadrunners Report off on October 13th, where the Tucson Roadrunners named their 5th captain in Tucson Roadrunners history, for getting anywhere they were before. I want to say the exact order is Craig Cunningham, Andrew Campbell, Dakota Murmis, Hudson Foshing, and now Adam Cracknell. Never heard of him before, but honestly, you can bring a veteran in, lead these kids, get them playing well, hopefully get them into the playoffs. I like you already. Anyway, let's go ahead and start off with the first game in Henderson against the Henderson Silver Knights. That one was October 14th, same time as the ASU men were opening up the Mullet Arena to the Colgate, whatever the name is, and splitting a series. But that's for the ASU video that I might post before this. Anyway, both goals for Tucson were scored in the second period. I even had a friend of mine that lives in Henderson texting me live updates, so thank you very much. Glad to see you wearing Roadrunner stuff and not Henderson Silver Knights. Anyway, at 7:10, Kellerman scores the first goal for the Tucson Roadrunners. This one coming from Nathan Smith and Cameron Hebig, putting the Roadrunners on the board up 1-0. Then exactly 2 minutes later, Tyson Mpe is first from Barron. We're up 2-0. Then in the third period, Henderson scores. Doesn't really matter because the Tucson Roadrunners win their first game of the season in Henderson 2-1, and that's like 5 consecutive years in a row the Tucson Roadrunners have won the first game of the year. So honestly, this is not going to be an easy prediction for the rest of the season because they kind of tend to always do this. Check back in 5 games. We'll figure out where things are going. Or we can check into how they played last night. All the same, really. Now, the second game at Henderson on the 15th was, it was sure a game. Instead of going with Ivan Prosotov again, who had 19 saves and 1 goal against for the first win of the season, they go with John Gillies. I have absolutely no expectations for John Gillies, but considering the fact the Coyotes claimed Jonas Johansson and then Connor Ingram, the same kid they scored 5 against in the last game in Glendale, I'm going to assume Gillies was always meant to be an AHL level backup. Maybe the guy you call if you get a goaltending injury because you don't want to ruin Prosy. But anyway, they go with him, and want to hear something funny? In 25 minutes and 42 seconds of ice time, John Gillies stops 4 shots and lets in 5 goals. Prosy would come in. I think he would save 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 11, something like that. Prosy had a pretty solid finish, but the damage was kind of already done at that point. Oh yeah, speaking of the goals the Roadrunners scored, 12:43 of the first, Ronald Knott gets his first goal as a Roadrunner. That one being assisted by Michael Carcone and Sean Sebastian Day. Then a minute and 34 seconds into the second period, Day scores his first of the year from Michael Carcone, meaning Day gets a goal and an assist, Carcone gets a couple of assists, John Gillies gets kicked out of the game. Whole lot of things going on in Tucson right now. Not really a whole lot else I got for you. I don't really do injury reports very well. I'm assuming no one got injured. I'm hoping no one got injured. At the very least, they won one of their first 2 games to open the season. They're only 1-1, 0-0. I know their win-loss record format is really weird, but hey, what can you do? The next couple of games are at home on the 22nd and 23rd against the Bakersfield Condors, so play Ivan for both those games, please. Or at the very least, let David Tendek get in there, because honestly, to end last season, David Tendek looked pretty good. And that's going to do it for your Tucson Roadrunners report on this probably Wednesday when you see it, but I'm recording it on Sunday. Go Roadrunners, all that, God save the Queen, and bye. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here. Let's go ahead and talk about some Tucson Roadrunners stuff. Yes, I know I'm late. Even my notes are dated for Halloween. But they're currently on a hot streak. Adam Cracknell, the captain, I didn't mention in the last video, I don't think, played his 1,000th career professional game. Assuming that means NHL and AHL. He's been around for a while. Congratulations to you. I do apologize, I forgot to mention that. One more note, just so that way people will know what's going on with Liam Kirk. He is still healthy. He has just not been able to crack the roster, which really does suck because I think this kid's got a lot in him. I just don't know what happened between last year and this year minus the injury, because this year's training camp, he just didn't look all that good, and the Tucson Roadrunners, they're playing very well right now. It wouldn't be a very good idea to just throw him in the lineup if he's not playing well right now, because you don't want to ruin all that chemistry. But on top of that, even guys like Colin Theisen aren't really getting in the lineup. He has only 2 games played this season throughout the, 6 or 7 so far. There you go. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the games. The home opening weekend on the 22nd and 23rd hosting Bakersfield, and the Roadrunners win both those games 5-3. 57 seconds in, Captain Adam Cracknell, his first from Cam Dineen. Then going down the line, here's everything in the second period. From 3:27 to 1952 of the second period. That's when all the goals were scored minus that Cracknell goal. Hebig is first from Kelman and Knott. Dauphin is first from Smith and Carconi. Dineen is first from Unique and Carconi. And Carconi is first from Dauphin and Sean Sebastian Day. Carconi with a goal and 2 assists. Dauphin and Dineen each had a goal and an assist. Nate Smith gets on the board. The team looked good. And one thing I thought was funny I wanted to mention on my notes here, all 5 of the goals scored by the Roadrunners, this is the 3rd game of the season, was everyone's first goal of the year. I just thought that was fun. Prosy gets his 2nd win of the season, 28 saves, 3 goals against, solid night for him. I think he's looked really good this season. And despite Gillies being blown up in his first game of the season, I think he's also bounced back pretty well. And I do like the mindset of alternating every other game. I just think that's going to be more beneficial in the long term instead of just burying one goaltender. Especially because if you have, let's just say 5 extra games played in the first 2 months, you're ever so slightly more fatigued for the last 5 games of the season, or the last 5 games that you play. So it's just, I think right now in the games don't matter. It's the best possible time to alternate, and then whichever one becomes the full-out starter, it's going to be Ivan Prosvetov. You can use them all you want. Anyway, the next night on the 23rd, they win 5-3 again, and the Roadrunners score the first couple of goals. Yolnik his first from Soderstrom and Amama in the first period. Then about a minute later, Day his second from Carconi and Dineen. Then we start alternating goals, but quite frankly, it just doesn't matter what Bakersfield did there, because Laurent Dauphin, 3 consecutive goals, scores a hat trick. He has looked phenomenal. One of the best possible additions to this Roadrunners squad. They desperately needed what he is providing right now as a forward. I liked the kid when he was here. I was a little disappointed when he ended up moving on. I think he played for Montreal the last 2 years, or at least a season ago, and it's just seeing him getting to play back here again. He looks good. He might actually end up getting a call-up. Him, Carconi, even Day to an extent, have all looked really good, and while I do not advocate for ruining the momentum right now, because I think with a lot of the younger kids that are playing in Tucson right now, getting some playoff games this year will be extremely valuable to the development. Those 3 guys in particular have looked really good, and if there's injuries, trades, whatever, one of those 3 will be called up. I'm still leaning Carconi first, but Carconi and Dauphin really are the top 2 players. Soderstrom had himself a couple of assists in that game. It's good to see him kind of getting that puck-moving ability back. He still looked okay from what I can tell defensively. It's just, I want that shot back. I want the overall offense back, but I will take what we're getting, because at the very least what we're getting right now is better than what it was last year. There is a little bit of a improvement in his game. Congratulations. Keep working on that, because Soderstrom, I would like to see him part of the team next season. Anyway, Gillies, his first win of the season, 1-1-0-0 record, 23 saves, 3 goals against. He even had an assist, meaning, yes, John Gillies so far this season has more AHL points than Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Austin Matthews combined. I can't wait to see the comments of someone taking that seriously. Next up, the couple of games against the Barracuda on the 28th and 29th, and the game on the 28th was just domination. It was 5-1. The Roadrunners win that game, handing San Jose their largest loss of the season. At the very end of the game, I'll set it up just a little bit here for the next game, but at the very end of the game, there's some pushing, shoving, a little bit of scrums going on there. I want to say a fight as well, which does lead to some things later on, but we, of course, can talk about that later. Anyway, the goals, Crotty is first from Stevens and Carconi. Carconi is second from Dineen and Day. Kelman is second. Cracknell is second from Unique and Dauphin. And Amama his first from Yolnik. That's an empty net goal at the very end. Ivan the Terrible remains perfect, getting his third win of the season, 38 saves, 1 goal against, phenomenal game. I genuinely think alternating goaltenders is going to help tremendously, as well as the good improvements to defense, in getting his numbers up. And especially with how well he's playing right now, he might be able to stick around and translate it to some NHL stuff later on in the year. I really hope that happens. Or at the very least next season. Anyways, talk about the game on the 29th. And before the game even starts, we have a full team brawl. I will only show a couple of seconds, hopefully from the AHL.com, but there you go. Really entertaining. It's awesome. Both head coaches got fined an undisclosed amount of money. I don't know why the coaches are getting fined there, but at the same time, you can definitely tell that San Jose's coach is trying to send a message at the very end of the last game is like, oh, you're not going to blow us up. And then they end up winning this one in the shootout 4-3. Nathan Smith gets his first goal of the season 10 minutes into the first from Carconi and Dineen. About a minute and a half later, Day his third from Carconi and McCartney. And then with about 3 minutes to go in the second period, Michael Carconi ties it up. They go from a 2-0 lead to a 3-2 deficit. He ties it up from Day and McCartney. McCartney gets a couple of assists. Carconi a goal and 2 assists. The team once again is looking pretty good. And they do get the win in the shootout. One more miscellaneous bit of information came between these two games and the last two games. So Laurent Dauphin for the 17th to the 23rd that week was named AHL Player of the Week. Matthias Pincelli got that twice last year. It's good to see Dauphin, another Roadrunner, getting it this year. 4 goals and 1 assist in 2 games. 5 points. Yeah, ridiculous, phenomenal, keep playing well. It's good to see Laurent Dauphin playing well. I'm just saying a lot of these guys that used to play for the Coyotes years ago that aren't going to end up being top 6 NHLers, it's just good to see a few of them find places in this league or in the AHL and keep their careers going because, well, I want to know where the hell Lucas Lessio is. Anyway, that's it for the news. Moving forward tonight, I think it's tonight and tomorrow, they're playing against Calgary, the Calgary Hitmen. So that used to be the Stockton Heat. They moved over to Calgary. It did feel a little weird having so many teams in California. It was pretty convenient for the Pacific Division, but being closer to where your NHL squad is, I think overall is a net positive. The Coyotes can probably tell you that because it's like a 2.5 hour drive up. So, hey, we have an injury, morning skate. Well, you have a guy that's ready to go right there, 2.5 hours away. Let's go ahead and hope for another W because so far, I know they usually have a hot start. They win the opening game a lot of the times, but the Roadrunners are looking on a different level right now. And if they can just maintain this, we'll get to watch some playoff hockey this year. And if the Roadrunners go to the playoffs this year, I will find time to go down there and I will buy playoff tickets and I will go have myself a good time. But first, I do need to find a cowbell. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here. And after much delay and yes, 2 weeks into December, I'm finally going to talk about the Tucson Roadrunners throughout the month of November 2022. Let's not waste any time. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe and let's get right into it. The month would start out in Calgary to take on the Wranglers, where Jean-Sebastien Day, scoring his 4th goal of the season from McCartney and Crotty, would get Tucson on the board first before Calgary would answer back to tie it. Then on the power play, Laurent Dauphin, his 5th goal of the season from Cam Dineen and Michael Carconi. It's a 2-1 lead, to be capped off by Milos Kellerman, his 3rd goal of the season. It's an empty net goal. 3-1 finish for the Tucson Roadrunners. Ivan Prosotov getting the win, improving his record at the time to 4-0-0-0. 29 saves, 1 goal against. Really solid game for him. And the Roadrunners start the month off with a W. Oh, how the pendulum would swing 2 days later. November 4th, still in Calgary. Calgary would get the first 2 goals of the night, but Tucson would answer back with about a minute and a half remaining in the second period. Jan Unique, his 1st goal of the season from Captain Adam Cracknell and Laurent Dauphin. Then in the 3rd period, just 2 minutes in, Nate Smith, his 2nd goal of the season from Hebig and Kellerman. We are all tied. Until Calgary scores another goal and gets a 3-2 victory. John Gillies gets the loss, 2-2-0-0 record, 26 saves, 3 goals against. Solid night for the Roadrunners. It was just Calgary was the better team that night. A week later, Tucson returned home to take on the Coachella Valley Thunderbirds, and Coachella Valley started the game scoring 3 unanswered. 10 minutes into the 3rd period, Day scores his 5th from Kellerman and Soderstrom. It is 3-1, but Coachella Valley would score 1 more goal before the night was up, and they take a 4-1 victory. Prosy gets his 1st loss of the season, 4-1-0-0 record, 34 saves, 3 goals against. That 4th goal was an empty net goal. Solid night for Ivan Prosotov, there just was no offensive support. The rematch the next night, however, Tucson would score some goals. Just 10 seconds in, Adam Cracknell, his 3rd of the season from Carconi and Soderstrom. It is 1-0. And then just under 3 minutes later, Travis Barron, his 1st goal of the season from Mpe and Crotty. It is 2-0 Roadrunners. Coachella Valley responds is 2-1, but then still in the 1st period at 12:38, Michael Carconi, his 4th of the season from Connor Timmins Timmons and Jan Unique on the power play, it is 3-1 Tucson before Coachella Valley does what Coachella Valley does and scores 3 unanswered. At the very least, this one does go to overtime, but doesn't make it sting any less. Gillies gets the overtime loss, 2-2 1-0 record, 14 saves, 4 goals against. That tells me the defense played pretty well. That tells me the defense limited the opportunities, but Coachella Valley, when they got their opportunities, they were scoring. So after starting off the month with a W, Tucson would drop 3 straight. And I suppose we can make that 4 because just 3 days later, on November 15th, in a game hosting the Henderson Silver Knights, Tucson would at least start the game off well. 4 minutes and 20 seconds in, Ben McCartney, his first of the year from Day and Riley. But after opening up the scoring, the Henderson Silver Knights would score 7 unanswered goals, Prosotov giving up all 7 of those, recording his second loss of the season, 22 saves on the night, but Tucson would lose 7-1, dropping 4 consecutive games. It would appear 4 was the magic number because Tucson had decided that losing wasn't exactly the thing they liked doing, because the rematch the next night on the 16th, Tucson would score the first 5 consecutive goals. At 4:22 of the first, Carconi is 5th from Kellerman and Stevens. Still in the first period at 11:15, McGregor his first from Nate Smith. 2 minutes later on the power play at 13:51, Day his 6th goal from Dauphin and Timmons. Another 2 minutes later at 15:56, Barron his second from Empe and Yolnik. And then at 6 minutes and 26 seconds of the second period, Ben McCartney his second goal in the last 2 nights. That one coming from Dauphin and Knott. Henderson scores a couple of goals, but that doesn't really matter because Ronald Knott gets his second of the season from Kelman and Carconi at 13:12 of the third, and your final score is 6-2 Tucson. I suppose when they get smacked around enough, they actually decide to start waking up. Ivan Prosotov gets his 5th win of the season, 29 saves, 2 goals against. Phenomenal game for him. We skip ahead a few nights, and the San Jose Barracuda roll into Tucson, and they would open up the scoring with the first 3 consecutive goals. Then Tucson would respond with the next 6. At 17:34 of the first, Cracknell is 4th from Smith and Carconi on the power play. Also on the power play at 12:09 of the second, Carconi his 6th from Unique and Day. Still on the power play at 18:49 of the second, Kellerman is 4th from McCartney and Dauphin. We are all tied at 3, and Tucson wasn't done. At 12:29 of the third, Kellerman, 2nd of the night, 5th of the season from Soderstrom and Carconi. Nate Smith gets his 3rd goal of the season from Timmons and Kolyachonik at 13:53 of the third. And finally, Kellerman at 18:02 on the empty net, his 3rd of the night, 6th of the season from Day, a 6-3 final. Gillies gets the win, 3-2 1-0 record, 19 saves, 3 goals against. Honestly, it didn't come down to defense, didn't come down to goaltending. It was because the Tucson Roadrunners showed up and punched San Jose in the mouth. Then the very next night on November 20th, San Jose would score 6 goals and shut the Roadrunners out. Prosy did what he could do, gets the loss, 5-3 0-0 record at the time, 34 saves, 6 goals against. There was no Tucson offense. San Jose just kind of pummeled them throughout the night. It kind of is what it is. Skip ahead a few days later to a matchup in San Diego on the 23rd where Tucson, they open up the scoring this time. I've noticed there seems to be a direct correlation between Tucson scoring first and Tucson winning. Anyway, 6:55 of the first, McCartney is 3rd from Barron and Carconi. And then at 11:54 of the first, Jan Unique is 2nd from Dauphin and Soderstrom. It is 2-0. San Diego does get on the board. However, with 1 second remaining, empty net goal, Day his 7th from Barron and Soderstrom. And that's a wrap. It's a 3-1 victory. Prosy gets his 6th win of the season. 30 saves, 1 goal against. That's a pretty good way to bounce back. Let's go ahead and move on to the last 2 games of the month on the 26th and 27th at Ontario. Starting off with the game on the 26th, Barron would get the scoring started at 17:08 of the first period. His 3rd of the season from Amama and Yolnik. It's 1-0 Tucson before Ontario answers back to tie it. Then going into the second period on the power play at 1:47, Day his 8th goal of the season from Carconi and Deneen. That ends up being the game winner. Skip ahead to the third. About 2 minutes remaining. It's an empty net goal. Cracknell is 5th from Soderstrom. Tucson takes a 3-1 win. Gillies his 4th win on the season. 31 saves, 1 goal against. Really solid night for Tucson. The next night, unfortunately, wasn't as solid. Ontario will get the scoring started with the first 3 consecutive goals. Where have I heard that before? Skip ahead to the third period at 8:11. Smith his 4th goal from Dauphin and Unique. Tucson is on the board. Ontario answers back. It's 4-1. Then on the power play at 17:25, Dauphin is 6th from Carconi and Deneen. It is 4-2. They are getting right back in this game. Then at 18:01, so just about 2 minutes remaining, Day his 9th goal of the season from Unique and Deneen. It's a 3-4 game. They pull the goalie. They make a final push. And the final score is 4-3. Tucson loses the last game of the month in regulation. Prosy is 4th loss of the season. 6-4 0-0 record. 26 saves, 4 goals against. Just kind of sucks to end the month. But you know what? It is what it is. Although Although one thing I've noticed while looking at these numbers is that Tucson always starts off the season high, and then throughout the rest of the season, the only thing that's consistent about them is how inconsistent they are. 5-5, 1-0 record throughout the month of November, and they went from being one of the better teams in the division to being kind of right in the middle of the pack. And honestly, that's kind of the best way to describe Tucson. They are right in the middle of the pack. I have no idea why they always play like this every single season. And so far to start the month of December, it's looking kind of 50-50 as well. So you know what? We'll just kind of have to go along for the ride throughout the month. There is your Tucson Roadrunners report for the month of November. I do apologize it is so late, and hopefully December's will be a much better report. Go Roadrunners, and let's see how the next couple of weeks play out. Let's talk about the Tucson Roadrunners throughout the month of December 2022. The month started off in San Jose to take on the Barracuda on the 3rd and 4th of 2022, and the first game, Jan Unique gets on the board first, 5 minutes 54 seconds into the first period, his third goal of the season coming from Victor Soderstrom and Adam Cracknell. Then San Jose would score 4 unanswered, but with about a minute and a half remaining in regulation, Jean-Sebastian Day gets his 10th from Cracknell and Dauphin, so at the very least they only lose by 2 goals, 4-2. John Gillies getting his third loss of the season, 4-3 1-0 record, 32 saves, 4 goals against. Let's just move on to the 4th. The game on the 4th, Tucson would score the first 2 goals of the game. The first one, Day, his second goal in the last 2 games, 11th of the season from Laurent Dauphin at 7:34 of the first. Then on the power play at 12:24 of the second period, Michael Carconi, his 7th goal of the season from Adam Cracknell and Cam Dineen. Then San Jose would score 3 unanswered goals, but with 5 minutes to go in the third period, once again on the power play, Adam Cracknell, his 6th goal of the season from Carconi and Dineen. We go to overtime, where San Jose would score and get the 4-3 victory. Ivan Prosotov gets the loss, 6-4 1-0 record, 28 saves and 4 goals against. Tucson headed back home on the 9th to host the Ontario Reign, and once again, they would get on the board first. Michael Carconi, his 8th goal of the season from Cracknell and Soderstrom, that coming at 7:02 of the first. Tucson takes the early lead. Ontario would tie it up, but then at 13:13, the captain Adam Cracknell, his 7th from Carconi and Kolyachonok, and Tucson takes a 2-1 lead. Ontario ties it once more, but then in the second period at 13:28, Cracknell, 2nd of the night, 8th of the season from Cam Crotty and Nathan Smith, 3-2 lead for Tucson. Before Tucson would give up a game-tying goal, goes to overtime. They once again lose it 4-3 in overtime. Gillies with the overtime loss, 4-3 2-0 record, 19 saves, 4 goals against. The month just did not start off well for Tucson. Rematch the next night on the 10th, Tucson actually gives up the first goal of the game, so you know, maybe the result would be different. Well, slightly. Anyway, Barron, his 4th goal of the season from Soderstrom and Kellerman to tie the game at 1 at 6:01 of the second. Ontario takes the lead again, but then Adam Cracknell with about 2 minutes to go in the third period, his 9th from Dineen and Carconi on the power play. We go to overtime, where Ontario would win it by a final score of 3-2, meaning yes, Tucson started off the month of December with 4 straight losses, but at the very least 3 of them were in overtime. Prosy gets the overtime loss, 6-4 2-0, 38 saves, 3 goals against. It was not his fault. We move on to the 13th, where Tucson hosted Coachella Valley, and Coachella Valley gets the first 2 goals of the game. They would not score for the remainder. On the power play at 14:35, Nate Smith, his 5th from Day and Dauphin, we're now within 1. Then at 16:21, Yolnik, his 2nd unassisted. It's a tie game. 9 minutes 34 seconds into the second period, Carconi, his 9th from Dauphin and Day on the power play. Tucson takes the lead, and they would not look back. Exactly a minute later, McCartney is 4th from Unique and Kolyachonok, also on the power play. At 3:43 of the third period, Carconi is 2nd of the night, 10th of the season from Ronald Knott. Carconi then finishes the hat trick about 3 minutes later at 6:47, his 11th from Dineen and Day. It is 6-2 Roadrunners, but we are still not done. That goal coming on the power play. Yet another power play goal at 9:03. Dauphin is 7th from Dineen and Carconi. And after starting off the month of December with 4 consecutive losses, Tucson gets this victory 7-2. Prosy, 7-4-2 record, gets his 7th win of the season. 15 saves, 2 goals against. That was a hell of a game. Carconi a hat trick and an assist. Dauphin a goal and 2 assists. That's the way you want to bounce back. The next night on the 14th, Tucson would lose by a final score of 4-3. I'll just rip that band-aid off right now. 2 minutes, 19 seconds in, Barron, his 5th goal of the season from McGregor and Stevens, 1-0 Tucson. Coachella Valley ties it up, but then McGregor with about a minute and a half remaining in the first, his 2nd from Soderstrom and Unique on the power play, 2-1 Tucson. Then McCartney with 3 minutes to go in the second period, his 5th from Day and Douglas, and right there, 3-1 lead that they find a way to ruin in regulation. Gillies' 4th loss of the season, 25 saves, 4 goals against, 4-3 loss against Coachella Valley. 3 days later, Tucson would go to San Diego, and absolutely just dominate. 3 minutes 14 seconds in, Laurent Dauphin is 8th from Day and Kellerman, it's 1-0. 10 seconds later, Carconi is 12th from Knott and Cracknell, 2-0 Roadrunners. And then 34 seconds later, Adam Cracknell is 10th from Ben McCartney, it is 3-0 Tucson, and it would just keep going this way. San Diego scores one, but then Carconi, second of the night, 12th of the season from Cracknell at 6:50. Nathan Smith is 6th from Carconi and Deneen at 15:23. And finally, to end the first period, Laurent Dauphin, his 9th from Day and Kellerman at 18:34. It was 6-1 Tucson. San Diego scores 3 unanswered, but then at 3:46 of the third, Kolyachonok his 1st from McGregor and Douglas. Smith his 7th of the season, 2nd of the night from Carconi and Mayo, that one coming at 8:37. And finally at 18:05, Deneen is 2nd from Yolnik and McGregor, and Tucson scores a franchise record 9 goals in one game, winning this game by a final score of 9-4. Prozatov, 8-4-2-0 record, gets the win, 39 saves, 4 goals against. Carconi, 2 goals and 2 assists. Nate Smith had a couple of goals, a really good night offensively for Tucson. The next night, on the 18th, they were right back in Coachella Valley for a couple of games with them. They would give up the first 3 goals of the game, but in the second period, 9:17, Yannick, his 4th from Deneen and Yolnik, stops the bleeding. They're now down by 2 goals. Coachella Valley scores once more, but then with 7 seconds to go in the second period, Dauphin is 10th from Knott and Kolyachonok. It's a 2-goal game. And then with about 2 minutes to go in the game, Yannick, his 5th goal of the season, 2nd of the night from Carconi and Deneen. It is not enough. Tucson loses by a final score of 4-3, and John Gillies takes the loss. 2 nights later, on the 20th, to close out the 2 games in Coachella Valley, Tucson scores the 1st goal of the game. Carconi is 14th from Day and Smith on the power play, that one coming at 12:02. Coachella Valley scores to tie, but then Laurent Dauphin at 3:28, his 11th from Deneen and Carconi. They take the lead right back 2-1. Coachella Valley scores to tie it again, but then with 2 seconds to go in the second period, Michael Carconi is 2nd of the night, 15th of the season from Dauphin and Day, and they take a 3-2 victory to stop the bleeding. Prozatov, 9th win of the season, 31 saves, 2 goals against, 3-2 finish. Tucson went back home to face the San Diego Gulls in the 22nd and won this game by a final score of 6-2. Tucson scored the first 3 goals. Kellerman is 7th from Mayo and McCartney. Carconi is 16th from Deneen and Dauphin, and Victor Soderstrom scoring his 1st goal of the season from Barron and Amama. San Diego gets on the board, but then Stevens his 1st from Soderstrom and Amama. It's 4-1. San Diego scores their 2nd and final goal of the game. Then Day his 12th from Dauphin and Carconi, and Douglas from Hebig and Kellerman to make a 6-2 finish. Gillies gets the win, 5th win of the season, 26 saves, 2 goals against, solid 6-2 victory for Tucson. Then the very next night on the 23rd, 6-2 victory for San Diego. San Diego scores the first 2 goals, and Dauphin at 16:01 is 12th from Deneen and Carconi to bring it within 1. And then in the second period at 6:18, Douglas his 2nd goal of the season, 2nd as a Roadrunner. Kolyachonok and Yolnik getting the assists on that one, tying the game up. Then you would have 4 unanswered goals for San Diego. Prozatov gets the loss, 9-5-2-0 record, 14 saves, 5 goals against, just not the best night for Tucson. Then on the 30th and 31st to end 2022, Tucson would go to Texas to take on the Stars, and they would lose both games. Starting off on the 30th, Tucson would get on the board first. Hebig is 2nd from Yolnik at 2:39 of the first. Then Texas would score 6 unanswered goals, but 25 seconds into the third period, ASU alum Colin Thyssen, 1st goal of the season, coming from Kellerman and Soderstrom, so at least you kind of stopped the bleeding. Then about a minute later, Reese Fatili his 1st goal of the season, putting it at 3-6, and then Texas scores 1 more goal to make it a 7-3 finish. Prosy, 24 saves, 7 goal against, 6th loss of the season. Let's just move on to the next one. On the 31st, Texas gets the first 2 goals, but then 12 minutes into the third period, Day is 13th from Amama and Smith. It's 2-1. 2 more goals for Texas, and Gillies gets that loss, allowing 3 of those 4 goals. It's a 4-1 finish. Gillies, 6 losses of the season, 29 saves, 3 goals against, and we get to end an abysmal month of December for Tucson. Tucson would finish the month of December with a 4-6-3-0 record, just an abysmal month. It's kind of a notable pattern because as long as I've been following Tucson, you have the hot start, it tapers off, they kind of start to suck the second half of the season. And the thing is, the Coyotes themselves aren't exactly that injured, so you aren't taking that many players. Carconi did get a stint up, Yannick played a game, Dauphin played a game or 2, so you have missed these players for a game or 2 at a time. But honestly, it just really sucks that Tucson just keeps this pattern going, and I really want to see them turn it around and make the playoffs. It's good to see Colin Thyssen get called up and get a couple of games, get a goal and whatnot. I really want to see more of that. But at the same time, what I really want to see is Tucson make the playoffs, and what they're going to have to do is make some changes to do that. We got ourselves a Roadrunners report. And to celebrate the occasion, I'm going to hang out the game-used Yan Unique jersey I won at the last Tucson game I went to. I was there on the 17th watching Josh Doan's AHL debut, and I will be talking a lot about Josh Doan. And since Josh Doan is playing for the Roadrunners, you're going to get a lot more Roadrunners content out of it. Anyway, what is up guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and we got a couple of games to talk about with the Tucson Roadrunners at home on the 17th and the 18th to host one of the best teams in the AHL, the Calgary Wranglers. And that first game was Josh Doan's AHL debut, so I'm going to spend all my time talking about him because they got shut out 5-0. Because I won that and my wife bought me dinner afterwards, we did leave after I won the raffle early on in the third period. So to be fair, it was 2-0 when I was leaving. But Josh signs his ELC on the 16th, makes a trip down to Tucson on the 17th, and as soon as he signed the ELC, I'm on the phone. Babe, I don't care what card you run, alright, I got $40 in cash, make it work and buy the tickets. I was talking to the Tucson ticket rep, they were talking about there was a lot of excitement for that. The building was empty. I'm a fan of the Roadrunners, but, it was empty. So one thing I noticed about Donor is that he's a big kid. Obviously, he was big in college, but he was kind of that big fish in a small pond. But even among the AHL players, he's still among the taller players, but the problem is, and I've talked to multiple people at the arena about it, and everyone pretty much agrees, he needs to bulk up. He needs to fill out that frame a little bit, and I definitely think this is going to help him, because he got bullied all night. In the corners, he was getting knocked off the puck easily, getting thrown around by the men he was playing against. Watching that game made me feel that genuinely, while I love ASU and I have an absolute blast covering them this season, this is what's best for Josh Doan's development because he needs to have that bit of a culture shock. He needs to have that, hey, you're right here, but you want to be up here. And at the AHL level, I think the increased competition will help. As of right now, I do feel safe saying this. I project Donor to not start with the Coyotes next year unless I want to give him 5 or so games to kind of show him what more he has to strive towards. But I see him as starting in the AHL and maybe halfway through being an NHLer next year or being an NHLer the year after. He was playing a bottom 6 role, playing on the third line. You can tell it was definitely different from him. I mean, he was the captain. He was playing top line minutes. We needed offense. He was the guy going out there with Robert Mastro Simone. So it was definitely a bit of a weird thing for him to adjust to. And you can tell he was a little lost there. He was playing on the second line with former ASU captain Colin Theisen in the second game. So at the very least, it shows that he might be getting a little more comfortable. But I would imagine it's going to take a few games for Donor to start scoring and getting more efficient. Anyway, speaking of the game on the 18th, after getting blown out 5-0, they would once again give up the first goal of the game on the 18th. For Yolnik in the second period would score his 7th goal of the season from Kellerman and Stevens. We are all tied. Then at 13:37 of the second period, short-handed mind you, forks up boys, former ASU captain Colin Theisen gets his 5th goal of the season. The assists go into Kolyachonok and Comfer. They win this game by a final score of 3-2 in the shootout, but speaking of Comfer, since I never made a separate video on it on the channel, let's talk about the Comfer trade right now while we're at it. So on March 9th, 2023, exactly 10 days after I'm recording this, the Arizona Coyotes and the Detroit Red Wings, they made a trade. The Detroit Red Wings sending over defenseman Steven Comfer and the Coyotes sending over future consideration. It's either going to be literally nothing or a 7th round pick. Comfer hasn't played in the NHL since 2020-2021 when he played about 20 or so games for Boston, but that's fine because he's not going to the NHL, he reported directly to Tucson. Considering Arizona traded away a bunch of guys at the deadline and had to call some people up, it makes a lot of sense that while Tucson is surprisingly still in a playoff run, you want to bolster their defense and give them a little better opportunity to win. And so far in 4 games, Comfer has 2 assists for the Roadrunners, so right now he's at half a point a game. That's not bad. Short video, mainly wanted to talk about Josh Doan, Colin Theisen, and give a little bit of a news report for you. So there you go. The Roadrunners split that series at home against one of the best teams in the AHL, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this team plays down the stretch. I'm going to waste no time here. We have a Roadrunners report for March 27th, 2023. Ignore the fact that it is currently April 3rd, 2023. We're going to start off on the 22nd where the Tucson Roadrunners hosted the Ontario Reign in a game that not only they won, but Josh Doan did a thing. At 3 minutes and 57 seconds of the second period, Joshua Doan scores his first AHL goal from Boko Omama and Vladislav Kolyachonok. It's a pretty solid goal. It's passed up to Donor right in between the circles, and he puts it in. There's your first AHL goal, kid. 1-0 Tucson. Ontario answers back. We are all tied, but then 10 minutes later, Ronald Knott, his 3rd goal of the season, from Colin Theisen and Michael Carcone, and yes, the Sun Devils are on the board. Then a minute later, Carconi is 27th goal of the season on the power play. It is 3-1 Tucson. Before, with about a minute to go in regulation, Day puts in his 22nd goal of the season, and that is a 4-1 massive win for the Tucson Roadrunners. Day also had an assist on the previous goal, as well as Colin Thyssen. And McGregor and Kellerman had the assists on the Day goal. Tyler Parks gets the win, 6-6 0-0 record, 27 saves, 1 goal against. Solid effort, but they have another game against Ontario. The very next night, the Tucson Roadrunners would get shut out 4-0. We're not going to spend too much time on that. It was embarrassing. Parks gets the loss, 6-7 0-0 record. We got 2 more games to talk about, so let's go ahead and skip ahead to those. On the 25th, Tucson would head into Colorado, and they would absolutely spank around the Eagles 7-1. I'm just going to read them to you. Funny enough, Colorado's on the board first, so it's 7 unanswered goals. Comfer is 5th from Amama and Cracknell. Nod is 4th from Cracknell and Thyssen. McGregor is 9th from Carconi and Unique. Cracknell is 17th from Doan and Crotty. Josh Doan's first AHL assist, by the way. Unique is 6th from Carconi and Riley. Day is 22nd from Unique and Thyssen. And Douglas his 6th from Dyson and Hebig. Did I say Day got his 22nd the other night? No. It was his 20th the other night, 21st here. Parks gets the win, 40 massive saves, 1 goal against, right back to 500, 7-7 0-0. Both Unique and Cracknell had a goal and an assist. Colin Thyssen had, 3 assists on the night? And with Tucson being back in the win column, we have 1 more game to talk about for this episode. And that is the very next night on March 26th, where they are still in Colorado, and they managed to win this one in overtime. Colorado's on the board first. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead to very late in the third period, where Michael Carconi will send this one to overtime. His 28th from Comfer and Cracknell. Just going to say it right now, Comfer has worked out very well in Tucson. Then about 2 minutes into overtime, Carconi decided he was not done yet. His second goal of the night, 29th of the season, and Tucson, they've won 3 of their last 4. And all 3 of those games that they won, they only surrendered 1 goal against, which is exactly 1 less than they gave up in the loss against Ontario. Tendek got the win in that game, by the way. 38 saves, 1 goal against, 1-1 0-0 record on the season, and that is your Roadrunners report for March 27th, 2023, posting on April 3rd, 2023. Wait, you actually wanted to know about this jersey enough to click on this video? So for my birthday, my wife went ahead and got me a genuine Josh Doan jersey. You can buy them on the AHL shop. You cannot buy them from the Coyotes or the Tucson Roadrunners shop. You have to go the AHL route. And while the jerseys are a little thin, I can tell you right now, I would much prefer if CCM did the Fanatic style jerseys, because actual better logos, some decent stitching. It's a much better looking jersey and much closer to being worth that somewhere around $200 price tag. So now whenever I talk about the Tucson Roadrunners, you will see this Josh Doan jersey behind me, because of course we have to support donor in this household. But I'll be wearing this jersey because it looks a lot like a Tucson jersey. You probably couldn't tell the difference if you didn't see the actual Howling Coyote on it. Anyway, this is your Roadrunners report for April 2nd, 2023, covering the last 3 games. This will not be covering Henderson. I will cover Henderson after the 2 Texas games. We'll start off on March 29th, where the Tucson Roadrunners were in San Diego to take on the Gulls, and they would win this one in overtime. San Diego gets the first 2 goals, so it's 2-0 San Diego in the first period. Then at 4:18 of the first period, Captain Cracknell is 18th goal of the season from Comfer. It's a 1-goal game. About 40 seconds later, Michael Carconi, his 30th goal of the season from Vladislav Kolyachana and Kesselring were all tied. 2 more unanswered goals for San Diego, but then in the second period, at 14:20 of the second period, Stevens gets his 3rd goal of the season. The assists going to Cameron Hebig and Cam Crotty. Double cam action on that one. Then on the power play to tie it up about 3 minutes later, Yang Unique, his 7th goal of the season from Colin Thyssen and Michael Carconi. ASU alum Colin Thyssen, by the way. 1-goal game. Skip ahead to the 3rd period, about 8 minutes in. Colin Thyssen, his 6th goal of the season from Captain Cracknell and Yang Unique. It's 5-4. Unfortunately, San Diego ties it up, but then a little over 3 minutes into the overtime period, Comfer his 6th from Unique and Carconi, and the Tucson Roadrunners head out of San Diego with a 6-5 victory. Carconi and Unique each had a goal and 2 assists in that game. And Parks gets the win, 8-7 0-0 record, 27 saves, 5 goals against. We got a couple more games to talk about, so let's just keep it moving. Tucson will then head into Bakersfield for a couple of games on the 31st and April 1st. Let's go ahead and talk about that first one on the 31st. This one also went to overtime, so at the very least, if you're going to lose, push it to overtime, keep yourself in a playoff spot, because right now Tucson is currently holding the 7th and final playoff spot in the Pacific Division. Don't ask me how AHL playoffs work, I don't even know. Bakersfield's on the board first, but with a little over a minute and 20 seconds left in the second period, Michael Carcone, his 31st goal of the season from Unique and Kesselring, were all tied. Bakersfield gets the lead back, but then at 5:15 of the third period, McGregor, his 10th from Carcone and Unique, we're going to overtime where Bakersfield wins it 3-2. Parks gets the overtime loss, 8-7 1-0 record. Carcone a goal and assist. Unique had a couple of assists. Both those players have been absolutely hot. Let's move on to the next game on the first. This one, the Tucson Roadrunners would fall by a final score of 2-1. Bakersfield takes the lead early, and the Roadrunners do not get on the board until the second period. We're at 9:04, Day gets his 22nd goal of the season. That one coming from Colin Thyssen and Nate Smith. But it doesn't matter, they end up losing that game in regulation. Tendick gets the loss, 1-2-0-0 record for him. And the Tucson Roadrunners, in some games they desperately needed some more wins, they end up 1-1-1. Technically 1-1-1-0, but no one really cares about the overtime to shootout separation in the AHL. At the very least, the people watching this video aren't going to care. And that's going to do it for this episode. There are only 2 more games left in the season on April 7th, tomorrow, and on my birthday on the 8th in Tucson. And the Roadrunners probably need to win at least one of those 2 games against the Texas Stars. I will see y'all in a few days. The Roadrunners are playoff bound! Despite the fact they did not win a single game this week. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and yes, you heard that right. The Tucson Roadrunners, despite the fact they have not won a single game this week, have clinched a playoff spot, so let's go ahead and talk about it. We got 3 games to discuss, a road game and a couple of home games, so we will begin on April 5th, 2023 at Henderson, in a game the Tucson Roadrunners lost in a shootout. Henderson gets on the board first, but then McGregor answers back about midway through the first period. His 11th from Michael Carcone and Yan Unique. Henderson would then score 3 unanswered goals. Yeah, that happened. For 3 minutes and 31 seconds into the second period, Curtis Douglas, his 7th goal of the season from Cameron Hebig and Cam Crotty. A little double cam action once again. 7 minutes later, Captain Cracknell himself, his 19th goal of the season from Joshua Doan and Boko Amama. And then a minute and a half later, McGregor, 2nd of the night, 12th of the season, unassisted. We go to overtime where nothing happens and Henderson wins in a shootout. Tendick gets the shootout loss, 1-2-0-1 record, but he had 19 saves because Tyler Parks gave up the 4 goals and then was kicked out of the net. Now let's skip ahead to April 7th, hosting the Texas Stars in a game the Tucson Roadrunners got blown out 7-3. Let's not even pretend. It was bad. Texas would score the first 5 unanswered goals, and Tucson would not even begin to claw back until the third period. We're at 6:24, Captain Cracknell, his 20th goal of the season from Michael Carcone and Cam Crotty. Texas scores again, making it 6-1. But then at 9:27, Curtis Douglas, 2nd goal in back-to-back nights, his 8th goal of the season from Hebig and Carcone, and this is a 4-goal game again. Then 3 minutes later, Captain Cracknell once more, 2nd of the night, 21st of the season from Carcone and Doan, and that will be the last goal that they score. And they give up an empty net goal. It's a 7-3 final, and boy, that is not how you want to play when you're in a playoff clinching scenario, because all they had to do was win one of these 2 games and you're in the playoffs. Or lose in overtime, but we're not quite there yet. Tendick gets the loss, 1-3-0-1 record, 6 goals against, 21 saves. We're going to go ahead and just go to my birthday. We're going to go ahead and go to April 8th and the playoff clinching scenario. We start off with Texas scoring the first 4 unanswered goals. I don't know who is left in the Arizona Coyotes roster that can be sent down, but they need to be sent down because the goaltending is not very good right now in Tucson and the defense has some holes. Also, I said it repeatedly while the Arizona Coyotes were playing, and I'll say it again with the Tucson Roadrunners, 11-7 doesn't work. Anyway, Tucson would then score the next 4 unanswered goals, so they would exchange 4 unanswered goals. I'm just going to go ahead and read them off to you. Thyssen is 7th from Comfort and Day on the power play at 18:41 of the second. Donor is 2nd from Kolyachonik and Kesselring at 3:04 of the third. So the birthday celebration just keeps on going, don't it? Day is 23rd from Carcone and Cracknell at 17:19 of the third. And Cameron Hebig is 8th of the season from Cracknell and Kesselring at 17:56. We go to overtime, where Texas scores and wins 5-4. Parks gets that loss, 27 saves, 5 goals against, 8-7 2-0 record. Tyler Parks is not a bad goaltender per se. I just feel like he is an ECHL level goaltender, not an AHL level goaltender. He's had some great games down the stretch, but he's also had some absolutely terrible games, and David Tendick also hasn't looked that much better. I pay attention to Tucson. I have no idea how I managed to because I'm so busy, but I do pay attention to Tucson as much as I possibly can. Tucson's final 2 games of the season are hosting the the San Jose Barracuda on April 14th and 15th. Definitely go down there, support your Tucson Roadrunners. And Tucson, I'm going to say this right now, right? San Jose is not a great team. Win both of these games. I think that would put them at 500 or technically above 500 or right around 500. I don't care. Win both of those games. We got some streaks to talk about. So Joshua Doan, 1 goal and 2 assists in 3 games. That is right. Doner's putting up some points there. Adam Cracknell, 3 goals, 1 assist in 3 games. Michael Carcone, 5 assists in his last 5 games. And this one might surprise you. Cameron Hebig, 1 goal and 2 assists in 3 games. And those are your current Roadrunners streaks. This is your second to last Roadrunners report for the regular season. And I'll see you later. So after clinching the playoffs with an overtime loss, the Tucson Roadrunners had 2 more games to end the 22-23 season. Could they at least win 1 game in April? No, they couldn't. Not sure how delicately you wanted that information. We got a bunch of news to talk about, so I'm going to be very brief with the actual game report. First game on the 14th, hosting the San Jose Barracuda. Tucson's on the board first. Nate Smith, his 12th goal of the season from Day and Crotty at 7:45. There you go. They give up back-to-back goals, so then Josh Doan, a minute and 20 seconds into the 3rd period, his 3rd and final professional goal of the season from Cracknell and Carcone were all tied. Tucson gives up 2 more goals, and then Cameron Hebig is 9th from Kolyachonok with about 5 minutes to go in the 3rd, and that is your final in regulation, 4-3. Next night on the 15th, hosting the Barracuda again. San Jose's on the board first, but then Kesselring is 15th from Kellerman at 6:13 in the 2nd. We're all tied. San Jose's back on the board, but then at 4 minutes and 28 seconds of the 3rd period, Michael Lombardi in his first professional game gets his first goal from Miller and Crotty. We're all tied before San Jose scores 2 more goals and wins by a final score of 4-2. Parks loses both of those games, giving up 7 goals over the 2 games, and I'm not gonna lie, decent goaltender. Really wish they would have used Prosvetov. So, after that first loss, the Coyotes actually sent down 5 guys. Michael Kesselring, Victor Soderstrom, Milos Kellerman, Ivan Prosvetov, and Yan Yannick. The Roadrunners proceeded to only play Kellerman and Kesselring, which, funny enough, was the combination for the first goal in that game. Why was Prosvetov not playing? Why was Yannick not in the lineup? Why wasn't Soderstrom playing? I said it when it was announced and all 5 of those guys are getting sent down that the Tucson Roadrunners should look better in the playoffs, but you would have thought you wanted to have that in the last regular season game. On top of that, Michael Lombardi was actually signed out of Quinnipiac, who is now the NCAA champions. No relation to former Coyote Matthew Lombardi, unfortunately. Let's see what else. Michael Carcone is AHL First Team All-Star. Congratulations to him. He also takes home the AHL point scoring title this season. 31 goals, 54 assists, 85 points in just 65 games. It's funny, the Arizona Coyotes finished with 70 points, Clayton Keller at 86. The Roadrunners finished with 69 points, nice, and their leading scorer ends with 85. Another little fun note, Michael Kesselring with that goal, that 15th of the season, he actually ties for 3rd among all AHL defensemen with goal scoring. The next 2 guys had like 20 and 18, but there you go, he's tied for 3rd. Next up, they're going to the playoffs starting on the 19th, so it's the 19th, 21st, and 23rd at Coachella Valley, who is one of the best teams in the AHL. I'm getting off work earlier tomorrow, alright, so I should have time to do a playoff preview, but just in case I do not have the time, the Roadrunners went winless throughout the month of April. I want to say it was 0-4-1-1 off the top of my head. Coachella Valley is one of the best teams in the league. I think they just got Shane Wright back. They got former ASU legend Joey DeCord back. I see it being a sweep, though I am very much open to the Roadrunners winning at least a game or winning it in 3 games. But if the Roadrunners win, it's going to take all 3 games. This first round series is the best of 3. I will hopefully see you with an actual preview, but if not, I'll see you for the first game. How's it going? AZ Sports Guy here, and I have almost no time to record, but I want to at least try to do a series preview between the Tucson Roadrunners and the Coachella Valley Firebirds. The series starts tonight at Coachella Valley. It's a best 2 out of 3 series, and I'm really hoping the Tucson Roadrunners bring something they just haven't brought against Coachella Valley this season. Yeah, no spoiler alert, this matchup has not gone very well in the inaugural season for the Firebirds. I got a few notes, so we'll go ahead and start off with the record. So Coachella Valley, like I mentioned, one of the better teams in the AHL. 48-17-5-2. They were 2nd in the Pacific behind only the Calgary Wranglers, who had 51 wins. The Tucson Roadrunners barely squeaked into the playoffs, finishing 7th in the Pacific Division with a record of 30-33-8-1. The Roadrunners got in with a losing record. I feel like if this was the hockey guy, we'd be talking about hockey in, what, the 70s, 80s? I'm not an expert in stuff like that. Little fun fact, Coachella Valley actually has 4 20-goal scorers. McCormick had 28. I'm going to mess up this next name, but Ty Carty had 28. And Jesper Froden had 25 goals. Oh, I was missing one. That's right. Cole Lind had 30, compared to Tucson's 3 20-goal scorers. Those being Adam Cracknell with 21, John Sebastian Day with 23, and Michael Carcone with, 31. Though 20-goal scorers aren't everything, I do think that Coachella Valley is the better of the two teams. Coachella Valley also has a really good goaltender. Side note, the best goaltender for the Arizona State Sun Devils until TJ Septenfelter catches up, Joey Decord. But if we're talking about having ASU alums on your team, I guess Tucson wins the advantage because they have two former captains, Josh Doan and Colin Thyssen, but that's not the conversation we're having. The goaltending for Tucson, you have Ivan Prosotov, who had a very productive season, as well as Tyler Parks, who's up and down, has some really good games, some really not so good games, and I personally feel he's an ECHL level goaltender, but he has had some damn good 30-plus save efforts for the Roadrunners. Let's go ahead and recap the matchups between these two teams. So the first four were at home for Tucson, the next four were on the road. On the 11th and 12th of November, they lose both those first matchups, 4-1 on the 11th and 4-3 in overtime on the 12th. Skip ahead to December on the 13th and 14th, and on the 13th, they actually win that one 7-3, losing the next one 4-3, putting the season series at that point 1-3-0-0 for Tucson. The next four are on the road, so on December 18th, they lose 4-3. On the 20th, they win 3-2. January 16th, they lose 5-2, and on February 15th, the last matchup these two teams had in the regular season, it was a 3-1 victory for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Are you starting to understand why I think Coachella Valley is going to win this series? Meaning Tucson's record against Coachella Valley in their inaugural season is 2-5-1-0. Look, Tucson fans, Tucson is getting more talent. This team will be better later on. I'm just thinking, looking into this series right here, they're not going to win. But if they are going to win, the difference makers are going to have to be guys like Michael Carcone, Yan Yannick, Adam Cracknell, the captain. You're also going to need a lot of really good depth scoring from guys like Josh Doan, Nate Smith. On top of that, the defense is just going to have to be better than they've been, but they do have Victor Soderstrom, Michael Kesselring, and a couple others that are some pretty solid defenders, and the goaltending is going to have to come to play. And I do think Ivan Prosotov should be the goaltender for the series, and with that being said, I still project Tucson to get swept. Though I am completely open to being proven wrong, I have Coachella Valley moving on to the next round of the playoffs. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about that playoff series between the Tucson Roadrunners and the Coachella Valley Firebirds. In a series that, I said it going into the preview, I'll say it one more time now, I thought Tucson would get swept. They avoid the sweep and actually have a really solid game too, sandwiched in between disastrous games 1 and 3. All three games took place in Coachella Valley. We'll go ahead and start off on April 19th, 2023 in a game 1 that Tucson lost 5-1. They did not get on the board until 18:43 of the first, where Kolya Chanuk's first goal from Douglas and McCartney, so I guess we won the Timmins trade? No, we didn't. Prosotov had 22 saves and 4 goals against. We only had the one Tucson goal and a 5-1 loss. Coachella Valley takes game 1, but game 2 was much more interesting. 3 goals for the Tucson Roadrunners all in the third period, taking that 3-0 lead into the second. The goals read as follows. Thyssen is first from Cracknell and Carcone at 6:54. Carcone is first from Comfer and Unique at 10:21. And Kellerman is first from Josh Doan and Ronald Knott at 15:07. Coachella Valley then scores to get on the board, but they answer right back. Carcone is second from Crotty and Knott at 2:43. 2 more Coachella Valley goals in the third period, and Tucson, with a surprising Game 2 upset, wins by a final score of 4-3. Prosotov, 35 saves, 3 goals against. Phenomenal game for him. 1-1 record. Series is all tied up. Game 3 can theoretically go any which way. Tucson lost that one by a final score of 5-1 and only got on the board after being down 5-0, and in fact they were down like 4-0 after the first period. Prosotov gets yanked after 7 shots, only blocking 3, and then Tyler Parks comes in going 24 for 24. Needless to say, Prosotov got the loss, but the captain Adam Cracknell on the power play at 17:32, his first from John Sebastian Day and Michael Carcone, and just like that, despite that nice little spark of optimism in game 2, the Tucson Roadrunners fall in the first round of the playoffs 2-1 and will not move on to the next round. They did surprise me though. Alright, that was actually a much better effort than I thought. Games 1 and 3 were kind of what I expected, but game 2 showed a lot of fight. Josh Doan's on the board, Yan Yannick with a couple of assists, Michael Carcone doing Michael Carcone things with 2 goals and 1 assist, and Adam Cracknell getting an assist in that one, getting the lone goal in game 3. At least he did show up. Coachella Valley was just the better team, unfortunately. That being said, I do consider this season to be a success because I did not see them going into the playoffs. I didn't see them winning a game in the playoffs, and they did both of those things. So congratulations on a good season. Later on today or tomorrow, you will see the season review go up, and I might have a couple of off-season videos. Alright, might not. Josh Doan. With the Tucson Roadrunners 2022-23 season officially coming to an end by losing a 3-game series to the Coachella Valley Firebirds, we can finally take a look back at this season, and this has been a mixed bag. Heading into the season, you had a coaching change. As much as I respect Jay Verity, he went ahead and pursued an opportunity as an assistant coach for the Detroit Red Wings, and the Arizona Coyotes bring in Steve Potvin. And at first glance, it kind of felt like nothing really changed because the Tucson Roadrunners would win 6 of their first 7 games in the usual hot start, because typically, or at the very least, as long as I've been following this team in 2018-2019, they always start off the season well. They then drop 4 of the next 6 and kind of go back to where I expected them to be. Not that good, but not exactly terrible, right around the middle. They would then drop 6 of their next 8, and then things really start to go downhill in late December, going on a 7-game losing streak that was only broken with a 4-3 shootout win against Bakersfield on January 14th. You get some highs, some lows, but mostly a lot of mediocrity out of the club until they clinch a playoff berth, losing a game in overtime. That was a 5-4 overtime loss hosting the Texas Stars on my birthday. The Tucson Roadrunners would not win a single regular season game throughout the month of April, finishing the season off 0-4-1-1. The Roadrunners would finish with a record of 30-33-8-1 for 69 points, which, fun fact, the Arizona Coyotes would finish the season with 70 points, though Tucson plays in 10 less games. They play 72 games, and they would finish 7th in the Pacific Division. They then go into Coachella Valley for a 3-game series, dropping 2 of those 3 games. The first one and the last one were absolute blowouts, but that second one, they actually win by a final score of 4-3. So a pretty solid game for them, but it kind of felt like delaying the inevitable because they had a 4-1 lead at one point in that game. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the players did throughout the season. Former Sun Devil captain Colin Theisen doesn't quite crack the roster out of training camp, so he goes to Atlanta for a little bit of the ECHL, comes back up for the second half of the season, and plays a major role in the 31 games he played. 31 games, 7 goals, 8 assists for 15 points, solid season for him. I just really want him to be a full-time AHLer next season. Victor Soderstrom will continue his development throughout the season, come up to play for the Coyotes, and actually play surprisingly well defensively, while also moving the puck around very well. But if you were a Roadrunners fan, you already knew that Soderstrom was going to move the puck well. In 44 games, he had 2 goals and 19 assists for 21 points, so right around a half a point per game. And finally, another honorable mention before getting into the top 10 scorers for the Tucson Roadrunners, another ASU alum, Josh Doan, who in 14 games had 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 points and even got a point in the playoffs. Alright, now let's go ahead and get into the top 10 scorers. At number 10, we have forward Yan Yanig, 30 games, 7 goals, 16 assists for 23 points. At number 9, forward Nate Smith, 64 games, 12 goals, 15 assists, 27 points. At number 8, defenseman Steven Kampfer, 59 games, 6 goals, 23 assists, 29 points, though not all of those were for the Tucson Roadrunners. At number 7, another defenseman, Michael Kesselring, who is actually 3rd overall in the AHL for goals scored by a defenseman this season. 59 games, 15 goals, 14 assists for 29 points. Once again, also not all for Tucson. Number 6, forward Milos Kellerman, 59 games, 14 goals, 16 assists for 30 points. Number 5, defenseman Cam Dineen, who was traded at the deadline, 50 games, 4 goals, 31 assists, 35 points. Number 4, former Coyotes forward Laurent Dauphin, 48 games, 16 goals, 25 assists, 41 points. Dauphin was almost a point per game player. He was 7 points shy. Number 3, someone brought in throughout the offseason, forward Jean-Sebastian Day, 67 games, 23 goals, 27 assists for 50 points. He was one of 3 20-goal scorers on the team. Number 2, the captain himself, forward Adam Cracknell, 64 games, 21 goals, 32 assists, 53 points for him. And number 1 for your Tucson Roadrunners in scoring for the 2022-23 season, forward Michael Carcone. In 65 games, Carcone had 31 goals, 54 assists, and 85 points. The Coyotes' leading point scorer this season, Clayton Keller, had 86, just 1 more. Oh, and Carcone played like 5 or 6 games in the NHL this season, meaning he would have probably been a 90-point scorer, and he led the AHL in point scoring this season. Phenomenal season for Michael Carcone. Goaltending, we have 4 goaltenders to talk about. David Tendick, 1-3-1-1 record, 280 goals against, the lowest goals against in the team, and a .912 save percentage, the highest in the team. John Gillies, who was traded away at the deadline, 5-8-2-0 record, 370 goals against, 878 save percentage. ECHL call-up, Tyler Parks, 8-9-2-0 record, 327 goals against, 888 save percentage. Tyler Parks had some damn good 30-plus save games, especially when he first got called up from Atlanta. I just don't think he's a full-time AHL goalie. Maybe an AHL backup, but I just kind of think it was a little too much for him. And finally, Ivan Prozatov, 16-13-4-0, 306 goals against, 900 save percentage, and the only Roadrunners goalie to have a shutout this season. Overall, the Tucson Roadrunners had a much better season than I think anyone expected going into this, and considering the fact the Arizona Coyotes have a lot of really good prospects coming up in the system, the Tucson Roadrunners should should get a bump in overall talent going into next season, and I am excited to see how the team plays. That being said, that is your season review for the Tucson Roadrunners for the 2022-23 season. They made the playoffs in a year that I did not think they were going to make the playoffs, so they definitely exceeded my expectations, and I can't wait to see how they play next year. What is up? AZ Sports Guy here. I didn't mean to record this yesterday, but when I got home from work, I just crashed. But that was then. This is now. The Tucson Roadrunners have a signing, because yes, that is right. Tucson can actually sign their own contracts. Any Roadrunners fans that want to preview a couple of players the Coyotes signed that will likely end up playing in Tucson, check out my last video where the Coyotes signed 5 players, and I'm pretty sure all 5 are going to play for Tucson. But yesterday, Tucson announced they have signed forward Hunter Drew. As I was looking into him a little bit, Elite Prospects has him listed as both a forward and a defenseman, so a little Brent Burns type. No idea, I'm going to assume he used to play defense. Hunter has had a pretty long AHL career so far, dating back to at least 2019-2020. Last year for San Diego, in 44 games played, he scored 5 goals and 6 assists for 11 points. He also had 92 penalty minutes. Then in 16 games for Rockford, he had no points, but 57 penalty minutes. I know exactly the kind of player you're going to get here. Big, physical, 6'2", has some size to him, but also he has a bit of a shot on him. So the Roadrunners actually showed a little bit of footage. I did watch the Roadrunners video, Adrian Denny talking about this, and while he's talking a little bit about Hunter Drew, he shows this replay where he just winds back and fires. That's going to be useful for some depth scoring. I mean, back in 2021-22 playing for San Diego, in 64 games he had 17 goals and 21 assists for 38 points, and another 138 penalty minutes, I might add. And also in 2 playoff games he had a goal and an assist, so he definitely can get some depth points for you, but we all know what kind of player this is going to be. Middle six, grinder type, going to fight, going to be big, burly, and physical. That's kind of what Tucson needs to help elevate a little bit their skilled players in the top 6, because if you have a guy that can get you a little bit of depth scoring, again, don't expect too much, maybe 7 goals max. Don't expect too much. Maybe he might have a much better offensive season in Tucson, he might not, but don't expect much more than like 7 goals. A little bit of depth scoring for you, but also, again, big, physical. That's what you're going to need here. Let's just assume you're an opposing player going after Liam Kirk, assuming he does play for Tucson this season. You get a pretty big check on him. You're feeling good about yourself. Here comes this big 6'2" dude coming right at you. So, Hunter, welcome to Tucson. The Tucson Roadrunners signed a couple of players, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes of your time to tell you about it. First off, on September 11th, 2023, the Tucson Roadrunners signed forward Michael Lombardi, no relation to Matthew, to a 1-year AHL contract. After winning the national championship last season, he signed with the Tucson Roadrunners and played in 1 game, but he scored a goal in that game. That's a solid first impression. The goal came in the 3rd period in a game at home against the San Jose Barracuda, tying it at 2. I agree with John Ferguson's comments. He's a solid 2-way forward. I can't wait to see him play a full season in Tucson. And exactly a week later, on September 18th, side note, hey, Tucson Twitter, Tucson social media, make sure to shove this news down our throats, alright? I completely missed both these signings. Anyway, on the 18th, they re-signed former ASU captain Colin Tyson to a 1-year AHL contract. After a 42-point season as the captain of Arizona State University in 21-22, Tyson signed with the Roadrunners, playing in 16 games and recording 5 goals and 6 assists for 11 points. Last year, he did not make the starting roster out of camp. He did spend some time in the ECHL for the Atlanta Gladiators. 12 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points, by the way. Before returning to Tucson, where he would play in 31 games, scoring 7 goals and 8 assists for 15 points. Tyson is a solid offensive player, and with Michael Carcone likely making the NHL roster this year, Tucson's going to need someone else to step up, and having guys like Josh Stone, Colin Tyson, and potentially Dylan Gunther at some point this season, Tucson has plenty of room for a good goal scorer. Though I would expect Tyson to still be somewhere in the middle 6. And that's the news I got for you today. Tucson signs a couple of players, and it will get a little more busy as we get closer to the actual season and the Coyotes make more cuts. You know what? I already got the Roadrunners jersey on from doing a little news update that probably will go up tomorrow, so this can go up today. No idea, tight timelines today. Let's do a Roadrunners report for October 2023 because I do want to give you Roadrunners fans some coverage. I've just been busy. The season started off on October 13th, Friday the 13th, this big hockey victory day in Arizona at the Texas Stars. So, scoring starts off in the first period at 4:17. Jan Yannick gets the first goal of the season. Of course, it's his first goal of the season. I said it on Twitter. I'll say it again now that I am no longer on Twitter. That is how you come back from a contract spat. Boom, right there, right to business. He's a point-per-game player right now, playing really well on the season. Kyle McDonald enters back about 12 minutes later. It's 1-1 going into the second. At 12:27 of the second period on the power play, Josh Stone, his first from Jan Unique and John Leonard. Unique getting multiple points in that first game before Stankoven answers back 5 minutes later on the power play. We go to 11:05 of the third with Milos Kelemen, his first from Aku Ratu and Ryan McGregor. 3-2 win. Yeah, we get to talk about wins. ASU hockey and Tucson both started off 2-0-0, and I had to throw in an ASU reference in the Tucson video, didn't I? Matt Villalta, 25 saves, 2 goals against, 1-0-0 record on the season to start off. And let's skip ahead to the next matchup on the 14th. Second half of the back-to-back at 10:32 of the first period, Dylan Gunther getting his first goal as a Roadrunner from Sanford and Unique. Skip ahead to the second period with about 2 minutes to go, Maximilian Zuba. His first of the season from Dylan Gunther and Justin Kirkland. Stankoven scores in the third period. Really doesn't matter because the Tucson Roadrunners win by a final score of 2-1, starting off their season 2-0-0. Dylan Gunther has to be the player of that game with a goal and an assist, looking pretty good in Tucson. And Matt Villalta. Let's talk a little bit about Matt Villalta, who was supposed to be the backup for Prosvetov. Prosvetov gets claimed by the Colorado Avalanche. 35 saves, 1 goal against. He's played very well. His numbers are looking really good to start this season. Then on October 21st, Tucson goes home to open their season against the Coachella Valley Firebirds and got shut out 4-0. I have nothing to add there. Moving on. Then on Tuesday, October 24th, they would host the San Diego Gulls, and this one, they'd actually pull off the victory. So, Hunter Drew, he's only played a couple of games this season. At 3:48 of the first period, gets his first goal from Milos Kelemen and captain Steven Comfer. Trevor Carrick ties it up in the second period. Then 47 seconds into the third period, Dylan Gunther, his second goal of the season from Nate Smith and Milos Kelemen, 2-1 finish. Villalta stops 22 out of 23. Tucson improves to 3-1-0-0. And enjoy those wins because those would be the last 2 wins of the month. We skip ahead to October 27th and 28th, hosting the Bakersfield Condors. And, well, at 5:16 of the second period on the power play, Josh Doan gets his second goal of the season from Smith and Gunther. And that tied it before we get 3 unanswered goals, 4-1 finish. Then the next night, Jan Unique scores his second from Smith and Gunther on the power play at 1:23 of the second to make it a 2-1 deficit before 3 unanswered goals, 5-1 finish. Not exactly the way Tucson wanted to end October, but they're 3-3-0-0 in the month, 2-0-0 on the road, and 1-3-0 at home. Let's go ahead and talk about the few leading goal scorers. Dylan Gunther, 6 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Jan Unique, 4 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. Milos Kelemen, 6 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Nate Smith, 5 games, 3 assists. Josh Doan, 6 games, 2 goals. Hunter Drew and Max Zuber each having 1 goal. Drew in 2 games, Zuber in 6. And just to briefly go over the guys that are struggling right now, Ben McCartney, 5 games, no points. Kesselring, Kolyachonok, and Soderstrom each have 6 games and no points. With Kesselring having 8 shots, Kolyachonok having 6, and Soderstrom having 10, you're getting the shots from the point, they're just not going in. And as someone who wants to see Kesselring back in the NHL sooner rather than later, as someone who wants to see Soderstrom succeed, yeah, we have to talk very briefly about their struggles to start the season. And just because I feel like mentioning another ASU alum, Colin Tyson, 1 game played, 0 points. He is considered inactive on the team right now. Villalta, 3-3-0-0 record, 920 save percentage. So they got blown out in back-to-back games, and he still is maintaining above a 900% save percentage. 920 with a 2-3-6 goals against. Tucson's just having some struggles. Is pretty much the best way to say it. Tucson is only scoring 1.5 goals a game right now. Of their 9 total goals of the season, they have scored 3 on the power play, so 33% of their goals are coming on the power play. So they are going to need to get a little more 5-on-5, but also they're going to need to stop giving up the amount of goals they're giving up, because 5-1 and 4-1 finishes are not going to get it done. Tucson has won 3 games, yes, but 2 of those wins were 2-1 finals. Tucson has only managed to score 3 or more goals in 1 game, and they have scored 1 or fewer goals in 50% of their games. They were blown out thrice, okay, against Coachella Valley 4-0, Bakersfield 4-1 and 5-1 respectively. So they have been blown out, or at least losing by 3 or more goals in 3 of these games, so 50% of their games. The goaltending is still at like a 920 save percentage. The goaltending is playing more than fine. It's playing excellent. The defense probably could tighten up a little bit. It's the offense. If the offense generated more, if they weren't scoring 1.5 goals a game, they'd be in more of these. Yeah, no, the defense has to step up. Yeah, the defense, I don't know, because half of the games, the defense is only, the opposing teams are only scoring 2 goals a game. 2, 1, 1. In the games that they have won, The goaltending / defense has only surrendered a total of 4 goals over 3 games. Little over a goal a game, but it's like 1.3 goals a game. Offense has to pick it up. Defense has to be a little tighter. Matt Villalta's playing well. Get a backup goalie. Matt Villalta cannot start every game. This month, you have to start splitting some starts. I know they have Mo on the team. They probably don't want to use him, so General Manager Bill Armstrong for the Coyotes, acquire a minor league goaltender, please. Thank you. Anyway, that is all I got for you for the month of October for the Tucson Roadrunners, and meep. Wasn't exactly expecting this, but I did see this yesterday on Tucson social, so I figured I should cover it. Give the Tucson Roadrunners fans of the audience a bone. But it was announced yesterday, November 2nd, 2023, the Carolina Hurricanes have loaned forward Vasily Ponomarov to the Tucson Roadrunners, and this is really weird. All right, the whole Carolina Hurricanes AHL affiliate thing is weird, but he's being loaned to the Roadrunners, 21-year-old forward that was drafted 53rd overall in the 2020 NHL entry draft. He was actually the Chicago Wolves' leading scorer last year. 24 goals, he was second overall in points with 46. Solid player, 21-year-old forward. Loaning players to teams is weird because, like, do I cheer for him because he's a Roadrunner, or am I like, I'm not going to see him in 2 months, so what's the point? Oh, and they also made sure to throw this little nugget in here. In 4 games against the Roadrunners last season, Ponomarov scored 2 goals and an assist with 10 shots and a plus-minus rating of -1. I don't know why you felt the need to put that in there. I don't know why you felt the need to roast your own boys, but there you go. I feel roasted. I feel roasted right now. Taking a glance at the rest of his career so far, in the 2022 international tournament, he had 2 games played, no points. 2021-22 with Chicago, 11 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. And playing in the KHL in 21-22, 14 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. Considering how the KHL is not a developmental league and they don't like to play a lot of young players, you're seeing it with Matvei Michkov not getting as many games, Dmitry Simashev, guys like that. Not surprising, and it definitely is better for his development to be over here. I'm just confused as to why the Roadrunners would agree to this, because the Coyotes haven't been calling up a lot of players. They've called up a couple, but not a whole lot of players, so is it a depth thing? Are you questioning the depth? Was it a good opportunity to get a solid scorer? I'm a little confused. I'm left a little confused, so I'm going to choose to think about it like this. The Arizona Coyotes are considering trading for another Russian, but they want to see how he does in their system first. There you go. That's the only guess I have, but welcome to Tucson, I guess? Yeah, no, this is still pretty weird. How's it going? Madness board day. I got 25 minutes to get ready to leave for work, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Don't pay attention to how it's formatted. My brain just don't do the working thing right. So, Tucson Roadrunners have been very good since I haven't had time to keep up with them, so obviously I was the problem. So, we'll start off with November. I'll try to make it very quick for you guys. Hosting Chicago in the 3rd and 4th, winning 3-2 and 5-3 respectively. Then go on the road for 3. Facing Ontario on the 8th and the 10th, a 4-3 overtime win and a 2-1 loss in regulation. Then beating Coachella Valley on the 12th, 5-3. Coachella Valley's good, not as good as they were last year. Right now, it's actually, where is Calgary? Calgary, that's the team to watch right now in the Pacific, other than the Roadrunners, obviously. They come home for a couple against Coachella Valley on the 17th and 18th, losing in the shootout 3-2 and then losing in regulation 5-4. You then go to a massive road trip to end this month. So, you're in Calgary on the 21st and 22nd, winning 3-2 and 4-0. Very impressive win, and if my memory serves, at least one of those 2 games they had to have a backup goaltender play. I think it was Dylan Wells? I'll get names down eventually. Then you go into Henderson on the 25th and 26th, winning 3-2, and then losing in overtime 3-2 the next night, before ending it off when I was actually on vacation in Ontario with a 3-2 victory. I probably should have ditched my wife and gone to that game. 8-2-1-1 in November. They only played 4 home games, though. 2-1, 1-0 record, 6-1, 0-1 away. Solid month for them. Really good month. And if you can believe me, not as good as December. It starts off hosting San Jose in back-to-back games on the 1st and 2nd, winning 5-1 and 7-5 respectively. Funny enough, around the same time, the Coyotes also played San Jose. One of these matchups on the board, the Coyotes were also playing San Jose the same night. Then you go into Colorado on the 8th and 9th, losing 4-2 and then winning 4-3. You then host Abbotsford on the 15th and 16th, winning 5-0 and then losing 6-2. You then head on the road for a few games on the 20th at San Jose, winning 8-6. In Bakersfield on the 22nd, winning 4-3. And then, funny enough, also winning 4-3 against San Diego on the 23rd. Then you come home for a couple of games, winning 3-1 and 3-2 against Coachella Valley and San Diego. 9-2-0-0 record in December. Ridiculous. Their overall record is 19-8-1-1, 40 points. They are second place in the Pacific and fourth in the AHL. Fourth in the league. I don't think I can add any more context than that. But I only checked it the one time. 5-1-0-0 record at home, 4-1-0-0 record away in December. Pretty consistently good right now. The work Pop Then and the boys are doing right now is phenomenal. Now, let's get down to this attendance thing I wanted to talk about. So, on the 30th, in that game where they hosted San Diego, which is not that great of a team, mind you, they had their highest attended game since 2019, 6,017 fans. I then wanted to take a brief look at their attendance overall, because what Tucson tends to do, as long as I've been following them since 2018-2019, they've had one truly bad year in that stretch. They usually start off hot, and then it's a lot of mediocrity down the way. Started off hot, got a little mediocre for a while, and then they've been exploding. The same amount of wins as the Coyotes, same amount of points as the Coyotes. A lot of brand synergy going on right now heading into the year of our Lord 2024. But the inaugural season, 2016-17, 4,054 fans. 17-18, 4,217. 18-19, 4,294. The Roadrunners right now, 4,023. They're about 300 shy of averaging their highest attendance since moving to Tucson. 1920, 4,057, pretty close to what their kind of average is. 2021-22, because obviously 2020 doesn't count. There was no attendance figures. 3,569, 22-23, 3,625. Believe this 21-22 season was the year they were bad, and last year they ended up making the playoffs. They get bounced in 3 games. And this year so far, 4,023. Like I said, about 300 shy of the all-time highest. Tucson's doing very well right now. I want to see more of that. I would like to see this creep into the 5,000s. Anyway, this number that they're averaging, 4,023, they are averaging more than the following teams. I think it's 5 total, but I threw a couple on here. Calgary, Manitoba, Utica, and San Jose, and they're about 1,100 shy of Toronto. Just to show how, when you put these numbers in perspective with markets that support hockey, they're not that far off. They are still towards the bottom of the league, a little bit of asterisk there, but I wanted to point that out. The attendance is actually not bad right now. Keep winning. Build from within, all right? Build from within, good product, and make them competitive. They'll come. Anyway, stats. I know, it's kind of all over the place thing. Their stats, I only went top 7 because, as you could tell, I ran out of room. So, we'll start off with Maximilian Zuber at the bottom there. 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points. Solid rookie year for him. Obviously, I don't expect him in the NHL anytime soon. Perhaps as early as next year. Maybe it's going to take a couple of years, but very productive season. You never know. Nate Smith, 3 goals, 12 assists, 15 points. He's performing okay. I don't really have anything against that. Anyway, John Leonard, the only non-Coyotes prospect on the list. He is a Coyotes contract, but non-Coyotes prospect. 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points. Kind of doing what you need, just getting some extra scoring in there. Victor Soderstrom. Soderstrom frustrated me. If you remember, the last video in this playlist is probably the one where they accepted that loaned kid from Carolina. Then he was gone after 2 games. But after in October, he hadn't scored, Michael Kessling hadn't scored, and I think Kolyachonok also hadn't. And I was getting a little frustrated with how the defense was not getting that depth scoring, especially for a guy like Victor Soderstrom. I want to see him taking more blasts from the point. He is good offensively. I just want to see the numbers reflect it. 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points. He is tied for 3rd in team points. That's not bad. I would not be surprised. Obviously, it would require injuries if he does get some time in the NHL this year, but I kind of feel like this is right where he should be next year, though. Hopefully, he'll finally crack that NHL roster for a full-time spot. He's making good strides right now. Keep it up. Aku Ratu, the surprise. Obviously, we keep getting random players the Coyotes drafted in depth positions. They come in and they play well. 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points. He's tied for 3rd on the team in points. Really solid year for him. I have no idea how I project him at the NHL level, but I'm enjoying him in Tucson to this point. Joshua Doan. It's good to have a Doan on the board, isn't it? 12 goals leading the team. He's one of only 2 players with 10 or more goals. 6 assists, 18 points, really solid. If you forget Dylan Guenther, that is not a bad core. Maybe not as high scoring as you would like from the top players, but not bad. Then we put Dylan Guenther in there. Dylan Guenther, he has played 28 games, so that's kind of what your benchmark should be mentally, about 28 games for most of these guys. Some of them a little bit less than others, but 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. He's second in goals, first in points by 10, and I need to make that video. I have most of the notes ready. There is something too. Whenever Tucson needs that player to step up, they get one player that is head and shoulders above the rest of the team, and they typically end up making the NHL the next year or so. So I would not be surprised if Dylan Guenther is a full-time NHLer within the next 2 seasons. He's playing phenomenal. I really wish when there were some injury issues and there was a spot open in the middle six, they would have just called him up, but obviously, whatever they chose to do has helped and benefited Tucson, so maybe my personal bias there was a little short-sighted, because what they've managed to do so far in the first half of the year, heading into 2024, is they've posted a phenomenal record. They are, obviously, you kind of forget these 2 games, we want to throw it in there. They're still about 9 to 10 games above 500. It's impressive. It is legitimately impressive what this team has managed to do this year, coming out of a decent amount of mediocrity, because I get frustrated. I get frustrated when the team I'm watching posts some of that mediocrity, but they've been nothing but consistent over the last 2 months, and it's interesting. I definitely am going to have to find time in my schedule. I'm going to go to a Tucson game. If they make the playoffs, gosh darn well, I will make sure I am down there for at least one of the playoff games. This team's playing really well. I can't wait to see what they do moving forward, if they end up making a depth trade or 2. Even a guy like Colin Tyson. Tyson's only played about 5 games. He has a goal and assist, a couple of points. The last game he got to play, I think, was right around here. He scored immediately because Tucson needed someone else to come in and step up, and for whatever reason, Tucson loves to do that. Next man up, even if you are an ECHLer this year, you're going to come in and score. That's what Tucson does, apparently. Steve, hey, Mr. Potvin, you want to give me the inside scoop on this? Because I'm having a little trouble making sense of this, because I knew they'd be better this year than last year, but I would have never projected this, personally. So whatever you guys are doing, whatever's in the water down there, you guys are doing great. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I need to get to work, so hopefully this uploads while I'm driving.